unto the seventh generation. In 1972, the world started a process that is mapping our future. The United Nations Conference on the Human Environment held in Stockholm brought the industrialized and developing nations together to delineate the rights of people to a healthy and productive environment.
The environmental crisis will profoundly alter our planet.
Fossil fuels is slowly warming the globe.
Our report is founded upon the concept of sustainable development.
We all have two hands and the sentiment of the world.
Now I wonder if they will even exist.
We are plundering our children's heritage for our present unsustainable practices.
Notre maison brûle.
The key is to come out from Johannesburg with a credible commitment to action.
Now is your moment
to save ourselves and the planet for our children.
We can fix this. We can stop this madness.
Accelerated climate change is here right now.
I will link arms with those marching for climate action.
We, baby, are going to fight. Mommy, Daddy, your president too. We will all fight.
We are experiencing a process that is linking our nations and communities much more closely together than they have ever been before. Our lives are intertwined via the food we eat, the music we listen to, the information we get, and the ideas we hold. Last year, the world's leaders unanimously committed to eliminate extreme poverty, address climate change, and build more resilient societies. In the Agenda 2030, we have a blueprint for sustainable development. Now the real work and the real opportunities begin. The potential offered by these new Sustainable Development Goals and the binding treaty on climate change is immense.
It is a new chapter of hope for the world.
It is we who are embarking today on a journey towards a more sustainable and equitable future. Our journey will involve governments, the United Nations system and other international institutions, local authorities, indigenous peoples, civil society, business and the private sector, the scientific and the academic community, and all people.
Because we deserve to do more than just survive. We deserve to thrive.
This interconnectedness among humans on the planet is creating a global village where the barriers of national and international boundaries become less relevant and the world a smaller place. The road ahead may be fraught with difficulties, challenges, and struggles, but we must dare each other to be visionary, to be ambitious, to be leaders. Given the opportunity, we can raise ourselves. We must join hands with the rest of creation and speak of common sense, responsibility, solidarity, and peace. We have all the tools. We are standing in front of an opportunity to change the course of life on the planet. Let's work together to make this world better, where everybody can live with dignity and abundance. Our future starts now. When you are named the Faithkeeper of the Onondaga Council of Chiefs, and for me, it was 51 years ago, you are told that we are now placing in your hands all life, and it is your responsibility to look after all life. Every person, every tree, every animal, every stream, and the earth itself, unto the seventh generation. In 1972, the world started a process that is mapping our future. The United Nations Conference on the Human Environment held in Stockholm brought the industrialized and developing nations together to delineate the rights of people to a healthy and productive environment.
The environmental crisis will profoundly alter our planet.
Fossil fuels is slowly warming the globe.
Our report is founded upon the concept of sustainable development.
We all have two hands and the sentiment of the world.
Now I wonder if they will even exist.
We are plundering our children's heritage for our present unsustainable practices.
Notre maison brûle.
The key is to come out from Johannesburg with a credible commitment to action.
Now is your moment
to save ourselves and the planet for our children.
We can fix this. We can stop this madness.
Accelerated climate change is here right now.
I will link arms with those marching for climate action.
We, baby, are going to fight. Mommy, Daddy, your president too. We will all fight.
We are experiencing a process that is linking our nations and communities much more closely together than they have ever been before. Our lives are intertwined via the food we eat, the music we listen to, the information we get, and the ideas we hold. Last year, the world's leaders unanimously committed to eliminate extreme poverty, address climate change, and build more resilient societies. In the Agenda 2030, we have a blueprint for sustainable development. Now the real work and the real opportunities begin. The potential offered by these new Sustainable Development Goals and the binding treaty on climate change is immense.
It is a new chapter of hope for the world.
It is we, the peoples, who are embarking today on a journey towards a more sustainable and equitable future. Our journey will involve governments, the United Nations system and other international institutions, local authorities, indigenous peoples, civil society, business and the private sector, the scientific and the academic community, and all people.
Because we deserve to do more than just survive. We deserve to thrive.
This interconnectedness among humans on the planet is creating a global village where the barriers of national and international boundaries become less relevant and the world a smaller place. The road ahead may be fraught with difficulties, challenges, and struggles, but we must dare each other to be visionary, to be ambitious, to be leaders. Given the opportunity, we can raise ourselves. We must join hands with the rest of creation and speak of common sense, responsibility, solidarity, and peace. We have all the tools. We are standing in front of an opportunity to change the course of life on the planet. Let's work together to make this world better, where everybody can live. When you are named the Faithkeeper of the Onondaga Council of Chiefs, and for me, it was 51 years ago, you are told that we are now placing in your hands all life.
We can be.
We must be the first generation to end extreme poverty.
The generation
most determined
to fight injustice and inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done.
The global goals.
A 15-year plan
for everyone, everywhere.
With no one left behind.
We will live in a world
where nobody
anywhere lives in extreme poverty.
Where no one
goes hungry.
Where no one wakes in the morning
asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world
will get done.
The global goals.
A 15-year plan
for everyone, everywhere.
With no one left behind.
We will live in a world
where nobody
anywhere lives in extreme poverty.
Where no one
goes hungry.
Where no one wakes in the morning
asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world where no child has to die
of diseases we know how to cure.
and where proper health care
is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world
where everyone
goes to school.
And education gives us the knowledge
and skills
for a fulfilling life.
We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities
to thrive and be powerful
and safe.
We cannot succeed if half the world is headed back.
We will live in a world
where all people can get clean water
and proper toilets
at home, at school, and at work.
We will live in a world where
there is sustainable energy for everyone.
Heat, light,
and power for the whole planet.
without destroying the planet.
We'll live in a world where economies prosper.
and new wealth
leads to decent jobs
for everyone.
And we will live in a world where our industry,
our infrastructure, and our
best innovations
are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
We will live in a world
where prejudices and extremes of inequality
are defeated
inside our countries
and between different countries.
Where people live in cities and communities
that are safe, progressive,
and support everyone who lives there.
Where we replace
what we consume. Planet where we put back what we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back the threat of climate change.
We can be.
We must be
the first generation
to end extreme poverty.
the generation
most determined
to fight injustice
and inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done. The global goals.
A 15-year plan
For everyone. Everywhere.
With no one left behind.
We will live in a world
where nobody
anywhere lives in extreme poverty.
When no one
goes hungry.
Where no one wakes in the morning
Asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world where no child has to die of
diseases we know how to cure. And where proper health care
is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world
where everyone
goes to school. And education gives us the knowledge
and skills
for a fulfilling life.
We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities
to thrive and be powerful and safe.
We cannot succeed if half the world is headed back.
we will live in a world
where all people can get clean water
and proper toilets
at home, at school, and at work.
We will live in a world where
there's sustainable energy for everyone.
Heat, light,
and power for the whole planet
without destroying the planet.
We will live in a world where economies prosper.
And new wealth
lead to decent jobs
For everyone.
and we will live in a world where our industry,
Our infrastructure and our
best innovations
Are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
we will live in a world
Where prejudices and extremes of inequality
are defeated
Inside our countries
and between different countries.
where people live in cities and communities
that are safe, progressive,
and support everyone who lives there.
where we replace
What we consume. Planet where we put back what we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back the threat of climate change.
Where we restore and protect the life in our oceans and seas.
will restore and protect
Life on land,
The forests.
animals, the earth itself.
with peace between and inside countries.
Where all governments are open.
And answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
and the justice rules.
With everyone equal before the law.
Where all countries and we their people.
Work together
Partnerships of all kinds.
to make these goals a reality.
These are the United Nations global goals.
For sustainable development.
Let's get to work.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zone. Trust you are doing well over there. It's been an amazing experience for the past 2 days here at ASSD, that's the African Summit for Sustainable Development in 2026. I want to believe that everyone has been highly blessed with much of knowledge. And this summit has been an eye-opener, truly inspiring for every African youth out there to go into sustainable actions as we work towards the Africa we want. Once again, I want to welcome you to the third day of the event, which happens to be the final day of the event. At the same time, we are welcoming you to the African Green Education Summit, which is the summit under the umbrella of the ASSD to celebrate the International Day of Education. welcome you all on the call this morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on your time zone. So before we go into what we have today, I would like to quickly run through what we have been engaging ourselves with for the past 2 days. So before I do that, I would like to remind you of my name once again for those who don't know who's speaking. My name is Abioyoluwa Femishan, the Director of Innovation Hub at ADEF Africa, the organization that is leading this summit at the moment. So straight into it, just a recap of what we have gone through for the past 2 days. So the summit started 2 days ago, which is on the 22nd of January 2026, with an opening remarks from Mr. Emmanuel, followed by a keynote address by Mr. Ronald Kayanga, and a very powerful message from Professor Roots. We delve into various panel sections and plenary section with interesting topics such as accelerating universal health coverage and resilient health system in Africa. We also delve into urgent agricultural reforms to address food insecurity, rising costs, and climate shocks in Africa. One of our panel section, we had a discussion around harnessing the potential of Africa youth for climate resilience and sustainable futures. After which, we finally looked at African urban future, building an inclusive, climate resilient, and smart city for sustainable growth. Likewise, on the very first day of this event, we had a brief innovation showcase from one of the graduates of the Sustainable Energy Accelerator Program, which happens to be one of the programs organized here at ADEF Africa. The innovation showcase was about clean energy, of how to convert waste products into usable material to generate power supply for rural areas. And we ended the first day with a networking and partnership engagement, which happened on our respective WhatsApp group. And this came to close around 9 p.m. on the first day, 9 p.m. Nigeria time. Likewise, on the second day, which happened to be the organization side event day, welcome various organizations, and we were able to hold 3 main side events. We started with organic agriculture as a pathway to poverty reduction, food security, public health, and environmental sustainability in Africa. This was led by Nagamu Yao. And straight after the Foresight event, we move into redefining fabric crops by Oni Iyanolua, which was a wonderful engagement where we learned on how to use our fabric scraps to create beautiful things. Finally, we looked at a very important topic also that is very, very germane to the situation of Africa, which is the role of youth leadership in accelerating the sustainable development goals in Africa. This was led by Oladimeji Adegun and his team. This sparked a lot of deliberations and comments, in which we know that the problem of leadership in Africa is something we should really look into. And we ended this section with a lot of comments, questions from delegates that were on board. The second day was brought to close with a networking and partnership engagement. Likewise, this was held on the WhatsApp group, and we brought this to close at exactly 9:06 p.m. Nigerian time. And here we are today, the third day of the event. celebrating the International Day of Education with a powerful summit titled the African Green Education Summit under the Africa Summit for Sustainable Development. Welcome once again, and I believe that today is also going to be another interesting day with powerful messages from all our invited guest speakers, and likewise, you have a lot to gain during the deliberation sections, which you also be involved in the discussion. So I want to, like we said the first day, that this is a summit that you don't just want to attend for attending sake or to just mark or register. However, it is a summit that you've come to learn. So it's important for you to be with your writing materials, either your pen, your book, or your notepad to put important information down so as to journey with after the summit. Right about now, I'll be bringing on board the regional lead of EDF Africa, also welcome address as we go into today's business. And Mr. Emmanuel, welcome as you take us on the opening address for today's summit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Femi, and good day each and every delegate joining across African country. It's a great delight to be here this morning. It's a morning from Nigeria. Definitely, I know it's afternoon in so many African countries, which we have quite a lot of people joining across the regions in Africa. And our distinguished keynote speaker, esteemed special guests, and speakers, ladies and gentlemen, good day to you all. It's a great delight to welcome each and every one of us to the day 3 of the African Summit for Sustainable Development, which has commenced on a very strong and inspiring note. And I'm so glad and delighted that many of us have been part of this session right from day 1. And today is particularly significant as it also marks the day 3 of the summit. But not just that alone, but a globally celebrated day, which is the International Day of Education. And this convergence offers us a timely and powerful opportunity to reflect on the role of education in shaping sustainable, inclusive, and resilient future in Africa. Just like I mentioned on day 1 of the summit that the SDGs were implemented 2016, and we are very close to the 2030 agenda than where we're coming from. We have just few years to attain, definitely, which I believe that we are going to achieve it. I'm very positive. I believe that each and every one of us too are going to be very positive. And in recognition of this International Day of Education and in response to the growing urgency of building climate smart and future-ready education system in Africa, the organization, EDF Africa, in collaboration with strategic partners like Green Education Partnership Nigeria and all other great initiatives, is convening this African Green Education Summit, which is focused on the theme as host for today, as earlier mentioned. And this is an opportunity for us to reflect and also share practical solutions, just like we have so many experts on the call across joining from different African countries. And at EDF Africa, education remains the foundation of all our initiatives. Across every project, every product, every programs which we do, we strongly believe that the successful achievement of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and Agenda 2063 is not possible without ensuring access to quality, inclusive, and relevant education across all levels and across all sectors. Therefore, education is and remain a major enabler to African sustainable transformation. For this reason, we have dedicated to this activity to one of the core thematic areas of the African Summit for Sustainable Development, which is education and digital innovation. We know that the previous days were focused on some key areas like good health and well-being, sustainable cities and communities, and across boards. The goal of today's summit is basically to catalyze transformative dialogue, inspire innovation, and strengthening partnership, which I believe our delegates across different countries have been engaging each other, which is going to advance green, inclusive, and future-ready education system across Africa. And the theme for today's International Day of Education 2026, which is the power of youth in co-creating education, emphasizes on the critical role of young people, not just as recipients of education, but also active partners, as also the agents of change in shaping the learning system and education system which we desire to see in Africa. And I believe that the years ahead of us are promising. African youth will not just represent the large and vibrant population alone, but will increasingly emerge as co-creators, innovators, change makers, champions of sustainable development across the continent. And with its strong footprint in youth empowerment, sustainability education, I want to believe that the organization has positioned in championing green education reforms. And this summit will serve as a springboard for action. Definitely, there are quite a lot of activities of Africa has outlined in line to green education in Africa. And I want to say that as educators, as leaders, as policymakers, and as professionals who are joining across Africa, I want to encourage us all to take the outcomes of this summit. Let's walk the talk beyond this virtual space. Let's take it into our institutions. Let's take it into our schools. Let's take it into our organization, across our communities and countries. Let's ensure that the discussions today translate into tangible action and measurable impact. And I must not end this welcome address without extending my special appreciation to our distinguished keynote speaker, and also our esteemed guest speakers who will be sharing their insights, experience, and wealth of knowledge with us today on how Africa can unlock its full potential and shape the future we really desire in Africa. Once again, on behalf of the Advanced Initiative for Innovation and Development, who is the convener of the summit, we are pleased to warmly welcome you all. And we are so confident that today's engagement will be insightful, inspiring, and very, very impactful. Thank you all, and I wish us all a successful, rewarding, and impactful summit. Thank you. Over to you, Oluwafemi.
Thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel, for that wonderful welcoming address. And I want to believe that all the delegates on the call this morning, either afternoon or evening, depending on your time zone, you can already feel the energy in the house that today it's for a serious business as we look at education sector together. As far as ADF Africa is concerned, we are very much passionate about education. We believe that education is one of the major key to achieving the sustainable development goals. So the reason for the summit. Right from the theme of the summit that says transforming education system for a sustainable, digital, and greener Africa, we know that we are very key into seeing that Africa should be a continent that will be leading in the education sector, as we have all it takes to achieve this. Right now, I will be bringing on board the keynote speaker for his address, and this is no other person than Mr. Richie Michael Wellington. He will be speaking to us on greening education in Africa, embedding climate education, green skills, and sustainability into African schools. So before I bring him on board, I would like to quickly go through his profile briefly. Richie Michael Willington is a senior diplomat and international science and education policy leader with over 2 decades of experience advancing global cooperation across education, science, culture, and sustainable development. Widely respected within multilateral circles, he has played a central role in strengthening Ghana's and Africa's voice in global education and science governance through sustained leadership, strategic diplomacy, and institutional influence. Currently serving as Deputy Secretary General of the Ghana Commission of UNESCO, Richard Michael Willington operates at the intersection of policy, diplomacy, and global development, translating international frameworks into nationally grounded and regionally impactful action. His work reflects a long-standing commitment to positioning Africa not only as a beneficiary of global knowledge system, but as an active contributor to shaping them. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as I welcome Mr. Richie Michael Willington, the Deputy Secretary General, Ghana Commission for UNESCO, for his keynote address. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Olafemi. Good morning, distinguished delegates, colleagues from the United Nations system, development partners, esteemed educators, dear young leaders of Africa. I bring you warm greetings from Accra. Let me first begin by acknowledging and commending IDEV and the Africa Summit for Sustainable Development for their leadership in creating this platform that brings together education, sustainability, innovation for Africa's development future. Spaces such as this are no doubt essential for alignment, reflection, and collective action. I am honored to join you on a theme that speaks clearly to both responsibility and opportunity. That is greening education in Africa, embedding climate education, green skills, and sustainability into African schools. My reflections, ladies and gentlemen, are framed within a closely aligned perspective, transforming education systems for a sustainable and digital Africa. And I must say, this conversation could not be more timely. Across African continent, climate change is no longer confined to policy discussions or global negotiations. It is visible in economies, ecosystems, and communities. It influences food systems, urban development, labor markets, and national planning for resilience. Water stress, flooding, droughts, and coastal erosion are shaping development choices in real time. Africa is entering a defining moment. It is the youngest continent in the world, with education systems filled with energy, creativity, and ambition. Young people are asking practical questions about skills relevance, employability, digital access, and sustainability. Education is a space where this potential is organized, strengthened, and translated into leadership. Transforming education systems for a sustainable and digital Africa is therefore not a future aspiration, it is a present necessity. This vision is firmly anchored in global and continental commitments within the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Action for Climate Empowerment recognizes education as foundational to long-term climate action. The Sustainable Development Goals, particularly Goal 4.7, emphasize education that equips learners with the knowledge, skills, and values needed to promote sustainable development. UNESCO's own Green Education Partnership provides a clear and measurable direction, aiming to make every learner climate ready by 2030. At the continental level, the African Union, through Agenda 2063, places education, skill development, digital transformation, and environmental sustainability at the heart of Africa's long-term development trajectory. Together, these frameworks affirm that education is a driver of transformation, spanning economic, social, environmental, and technological. Across Africa, we are already seeing tangible examples of this transformation, particularly within technical and vocational education and training space, and of course, in higher education systems. Countries are reforming curricula, modernizing skill development pathways, and strengthening the links between education, labor markets, and national development priorities. These examples reflect ongoing reforms and policy direction documented in national education strategy, African Union frameworks, and programs supported by UNESCO and development partners. Several countries are reforming TVET systems to align skills development with green growth and digital transformation. In Ghana, TVET institutions are being repositioned to support renewable energy, sustainable construction, agri-processing, and digital fabrication, linking training more closely to industry needs and national development priorities. In Kenya, TVET reforms are integrating green skills and digital competencies in renewable energy, climate smart agriculture, and manufacturing, helping young people transition into emerging labor markets. At the higher education level, ladies and gentlemen, universities across the continent are strengthening links between climate research, innovation, and real-world application. Rwanda's higher education institutions are closely aligned with national green growth and climate resilience strategies, ensuring coherence between education, policy, and development planning. In Nigeria, universities and polytechnics are increasingly engaging in climate innovation and clean energy research and digital entrepreneurship, creating pathways that connect academic knowledge with enterprise and employment. Digital transformation is accelerating these shifts. Across Africa, digital learning platforms are expanding access to education, supporting continuous professional development for teachers, and enabling collaboration across borders. Data systems, artificial intelligence, and digital tools are enhancing climate research, early warning systems, planning, and service delivery. When digital skills are integrated alongside green skills, education systems prepare learners for economics shaped by sustainability and technology. Young people are leading confidently at this intersection of green and digital change. Across the continent, the youth are building climate-focused enterprises, applying digital tools to agriculture and environmental management, developing clean energy solutions, and mobilizing communities through technology-enabled platforms. These initiatives demonstrate the power of education that is relevant, practical, and connected to lived reality. In regions facing acute climate stress, education is reinforcing resilience. Learning spaces are equipping young people with adaptive skills, environmental awareness, digital literacy, and pathways to dignified livelihoods. In these settings, education contributes to sustainability while also supporting stability, social cohesion, and opportunity. What unites these experiences is a shared understanding. Lasting transformation occurs when climate education, green skills, and digital competencies are embedded across education systems rather than treated as parallel or optional agendas. These require integration across subjects and learning levels. It calls for sustainability and digital readiness to be reflected in school operations, teacher training programs, and institutional governance. It involves equipping learners with practical skills for green and digital economies, while nurturing values of responsibility, innovation, and stewardship. Teachers remain central to these transformations. When educators receive continuous professional development and access to quality digital and climate-focused resources, learning becomes confident, consistent, and action-oriented. Strong systems empower teachers to guide learners towards solutions and leadership. Transforming education systems also directly supports Africa's economic aspirations. In the coming years, millions of young people will enter labor market shaped by green transitions and digitalization. Aligning education with renewable energy, climate smart agriculture, sustainable infrastructure, digital services, and environmental management supports decent work and inclusive growth. TVET plays a particularly important role by connecting learning with industry needs and national development priorities. From my own professional journey, working across education reform, skill development, digital innovation, and international cooperation, I have seen the value of alignment. Policies succeed when education is treated as a system rather than a silo. Young people thrive when learning is connected to purpose. Partnerships deliver results when government, United Nations systems, and educators and communities move with shared intent. These experiences reinforce a simple lesson. That is, progress accelerates when leadership is coordinated, systems are strengthened, and young people are trusted as partners in change. The way forward is clear, ladies and gentlemen. Transforming education systems for a sustainable and digital Africa requires sustained political commitment, coherent policy frameworks, investment in green and digital infrastructure, and strong partnership. It requires measuring progress, learning continuously, and scaling approaches that work. It also requires listening to educators, communities, and of course, the young people. Africa's response to climate change and digital transformation will be shaped by African leadership, African knowledge, and African solutions. Education systems that integrate sustainability and digital readiness prepare learners to contribute meaningfully to economies and societies that are resilient, inclusive, and future ready. There is an African proverb That reminds us the future does not arrive on its own, it is carried. It is carried by the choices we make today, by systems that are strengthened, and by generations that are prepared. The future is already present in schools, training centers, and innovation spaces across Africa. By transforming education systems for sustainability and digital readiness, a generation is prepared to lead with confidence, creativity, and purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, the opportunity is clear, the momentum is growing, and the responsibility is shared. I thank you for your attention, and I wish you a successful summit.
Thank you so much for that keynote speech, Mr. Ritchie. It has been it's an encouraging one and powered with full of action words that it is now that we have to rise to do the needful. The schools are there already, and it is time for us to reach out to every young African youth to ensure that we take education serious and we act, because the future is no longer tomorrow. Rather, the future is now, and we must act accordingly. Thank you so much for your words and for those insights. We are very grateful for that.
I thank you too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you so much, and regards to you. Now, fellow delegates, we shall be moving right to the next thing on our agenda, which is another powerful message we've been listening to from one of our co-partners for this company, for this summit, and that's from Greening Education. We'll be listening to a goodwill message titled The Importance of Education to Africans' Future. The importance of education to African future. And this will be given by Mrs. Edachi Juliana. She's the head of admin, Greening Education Partnership. Join me as I welcome Mrs. Edachi for goodwill message. Over to you, ma'am, Mrs. Edachi.
Thank you very much. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but the volume is a little bit low. We can have it better, ma'am.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, morning, it's still morning. My name is Mrs. Edachi Juliana. I am speaking on behalf of the National Focal Point Bringing Education Partnership. I will give the welcome address on his behalf. With the theme, Transforming Education Systems for a Sustainable and Green Africa. Distinguished representatives of the African Union and member states, development partners, education leaders, private sector stakeholders, civil society organizations, youth leaders, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the National Focal Point of Bringing Education Partnership Nigeria, it is my pleasure to warmly welcome you to the Africa Green Education Summit. We are here today deeply grateful for your presence and for the shared commitment that has brought us together to shape Africa's sustainable future. This summit is both timely and strategic. Africa stands today as the intersection of opportunity and urgency. We are home to the world's youngest population, rich in talent, creativity, and aspiration. At the same time, we are among the regions most vulnerable to climate change, environmental degradation, and ecological shock. In this context, education is no longer a sectoral concern. It is a strategic imperative for resilience, sustainability, and inclusive development. As Nelson Mandela reminded us, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Today, that power must be intentionally developed to confront climate change, close the green skills gap, and drive sustainable transformation across our continent. Education shaped the quality of Africa's leadership, workforce, innovation, capacity, and environmental stewardship. If Africa is to achieve sustainable development, industrial growth, climate resilience, our education system must evolve from the transition of knowledge to the generation of solutions. Transforming education systems for a sustainable and green education requires deliberate action to equip learners with climate literacy, green skills, systems thinking, reorient teaching research and innovation towards sustainable agriculture, renewable energy, biodiversity, conservation, and circular economy, and empower educators as agents of change who shape value and behavior and innovation. As UNESCO rightly affirms, education is the foundation for building societies that are resilient, inclusive, and sustainable. However, greening education systems cannot be achieved by governments or ministries of education alone. It requires a whole of society approach. This transformation demands collective action from government through enabling policies, financing and regulatory frameworks, educational institutions by embedding sustainability into governance, curricula, and operations, the private sector by supporting green skill development, innovation, and decent green jobs. Civil society, and communities by reinforcing sustainability values, locally driven solutions, and youth as leaders of advocacy, innovation, and climate action. As an African proverb reminds us, if you want to go far, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Greening education is about going far and going together. More so, our deliberation at this summit directly advise the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly Goal 4 on quality education, Goal 13 on climate action, Goal 7 on affordable and clean energy, 8 on decent work and economic growth, Goal 12 on responsible consumption and production, and Goal 17 on partnership for the goals. These goals underscore a fundamental truth. Education is the connector between climate and ambition and sustainable impact. It may interest you to know that Green Education Partnership Nigeria provides a global and continental platform for aligning education systems with climate and sustainable goals through collaboration, policy support, capacity building, and strategic partnership. GEP Nigeria, as we call it, remains firmly committed to supporting national and subnational efforts to institutionalize green education reform. This summit reaffirms our shared belief that education in Africa is Africa's strongest lever for a just, conclusive, and green transformation. Distinguished participants, the future of Africa will be shaped in our classrooms, campuses, communities, and innovation spaces by transforming education systems today. We secure a sustainable tomorrow for the generations to come. On behalf of National Focal Point of the Greening Education Partnership Nigeria, I once again welcome you to the Africa Green Education Summit and wish us a productive deliberation, strong partnership, and measurable outcome. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Matt, for that good win message. That's highly packed, as every single bit of your words speaks to the educational sector and in ensuring that we work together, not just to work only as a single body, but to work as a full body so that we can have enough strength to push through. Just as the word says that leaving no one behind is the theme of the Sustainable Development Goal. So working together ensures that we do not leave anyone behind in achieving the Africa we want when we are referring to the education sector. Thank you so much, our dear partner, for that wonderful message. And I believe that every policymaker on the call this morning, every change maker, every government body, SDG advocates, and everyone as a whole on the call this moment, we definitely not just hear this message as a mere words, but we transform the message into an actionable part so as to bring to reality the Africa we want in terms of the development in education sector. Thank you so much. Right now, we'll be moving on to the next thing we have on the agenda, and this is speaking to the innovation showcase in education sector. As we have rightly said, that education in this era needs to evolve into the digital space, and a lot of people are already doing wonderful thing in that space, wonderful thing to improve the education sector, not just the old way of learning, old way of teaching. It is a privilege to have one of our own in the house this morning to showcase one of the innovation they are leading in the education sector, and that's the Back to School initiative. It's a pleasure to have you on the call. You can proceed as you lead us into your innovation showcase. Back to School, over to you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Good morning, sir. Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen. Please confirm if you can see my screen right now.
Yes, absolutely. We can see your screen.
All right, great. Give me a second. Okay, hi everybody, good morning. It's such a great honor to be part of this wonderful gathering today, and Yes, before I go into back to school, I would like to first of all introduce myself. My name is Anklin. I'm from Nigeria, although I live in Germany, and I'm the founder of Back to School. Just a brief history about how this project started. We started this project in 2018 as a nonprofit initiative, just like any other education nonprofit initiative that mobilizes resources and uses those resources to help out of school children to get back to school. And we were operating as an NGO for about 8 years now. Actually, tomorrow makes it 8 years, 25th of January. We've been operating as an NGO for 8 years, but sometime last year, I got an idea to transform this NGO into a digital platform. And the reason for that is to, solve some of the pain points that we were feeling as an NGO. For example, our reporting processes were not really, it was very manual and not very efficient. There wasn't enough transparency in terms of how we were using the donor funds. If we do get donations, there was transparency, but it wasn't up to the level that would maybe inspire more and more people to donate. And also we wanted the children to get more visibility, the children that we were serving. We were working across 6 to 7 states in Nigeria. And with so many children, every year it's in each community is more and more and more children out of school. So we wanted to give more visibility to these children and also to find a way to get more organizations, right? More startups, tech companies, and all types of organizations to actively participate in solving this issue of education inequality, and not just doing that, but doing it in a very transparent and professional way. That brings me into my presentation. So first of all, I'll just give a quick walkthrough of the presentation, and then I'll show you how the platform works. All right, so Back to School is a global platform for transparent education support. We help organizations and individuals to turn education support into measurable impact. As we know, over 250 million children are out of school worldwide, and the highest concentration is in African communities, especially those communities that are conflict affected and where we are dealing with terrorism and all types of violence. Now, my thesis is that the challenge isn't as a result of lack of funding. It's the absence of systems that transparently connect resources to real children. Because a lot of education initiatives, just like we were operating as an NGO, we had inefficient reporting, there was weak accountability, and there was limited impact measurements. Now, the solution that Back to School is proposing is that we be the bridge that closes this gap between the available funding and the children, and will be the bridge that ensures trust, accountability, measurable impact, and transparency in encouraging those that have to be able to support these children. So how we do this is that we provide a structured access to verified profiles of out-of-school children with standardized support models and built-in transparency and impact tracking. How can organizations engage? Also, how can individuals engage? Because individuals can use this platform as much as organizations. So you can sponsor individual children or groups of children. You can run company-wide or friendship group-wide campaigns. I'll show you this in a little bit. And you can support education initiatives that are aligned with CSR goals. This has to do with our community mobilization project, which I'll also be showing you. So each of these engagement is linked to real beneficiaries and is tracked end-to-end on our platform. Now, our platform is built around transparency. We want to make sure that the people that do support education see the real impact of their support. They are part of the process, they are connected with that support, and they see the real-time progress of the children that they are supporting. So every partner or everyone that uses Back to School has access to a dedicated dashboard that provides enrollment status, the progress reports from the children that they support, and most importantly, a clear linkage between the funds that they provide and the outcomes of those funds. With Back to School, there are no blind spots. Transparency is built into the workflow, and this is something that anyone can actually do. You can get onto the platform and try it out for yourself. And we also make impact reporting very easy for CSR teams because of the data that we supply to the dashboards. We supply structured data, visual summaries, and verified updates through which CSR teams within organizations can carry out their reporting. Back to School is powered by the Back to School Impact Manager, which is also a tool that we developed. And it is through this tool that approved NGOs and partners that we work with back in Africa can create and manage children profiles, submit reports and updates, all of this transparency and data-driven accountability models that we have. It is all done through this Back to School Impact Manager. Okay, like I said, the platform builds on 8+ years of grassroots education work, and we've supported already more than 1,000 children in the last 8 years. And the tech of the platform is built by experienced the developers and product people that has experience working with SAP, BASF, and Verivox. These are international organizations. And also our work has been recognized by One Young World, the award, and the AFS Youth Assembly. How can organizations be part of this, or how can you as an individual be part of this? It's very easy. I'll show it to you very quickly. You can quickly onboard, choose how you want to support a child, and immediately once you sign up, you get access to the tools with which you can be able to track the impact that you're making and see the progress of the child and see the immediate impact of your contributions in the life of a child. So here is our email, and this is the platform. It's www.backtoschool.io. Please feel free to go ahead and explore. So I know I'm out of time, but let me quickly show you how this platform works. Please confirm that you can see the Back to School screen. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to run through it quickly. So of course, when you come onto the platform, you see that we are directing you to go to a page where you see real profiles of out-of-school children. And then you can discover those whose stories move you, and then you choose how you'd like to support them. So let's go to this page. Now, these are real children. You can filter by all children. So all children is all of the children across all the states that were active. And you can also filter by displaced by conflict, right? Mm-hmm. So this displaced by conflict is basically children that are displaced by this banditry and the issues that we have, especially in the northern part of Nigeria. So if you want to filter to see only those children, you can do that. And of course, a lot of people are interested in the stories of these children to find out what exactly or how exactly that they can support. So on each child's profile, you can see the child's name, their age, a brief bio about them, and you can see the cost for getting them back to school for a period of 1 year, and you can see how much they've raised. We just launched this platform 2 days ago, and as you can see, people are already donating to help these children get back to school. So let's look at Beulah. So testimony. Well, when you come into the story of the child or inside the profile of the child, you get to see the location. You can save this child's profile just in case you really enjoy the story and you want to come back later and see this profile. You can save it. And here's our child safety and compliance policy. Of course, a lot of people would have sentiment on how we put out children's images and their names and their stories out there, but then we actually have a compliance and safety policy that guarantees that this is safe to do. Now, you can read about each child's story. You can read about their background. You can read about the challenges that they face while they're out of school. And you can see what they want to be in the future, their aspirations, their dreams, and their goals. And you can see what it will cost to get this child back to school for a year. Now, there are 3 ways that you can support, and you can also see where your donation would go. So the breakdown of this total cost per year. You can sponsor a child in 3 ways. The first way is to provide full sponsorship, saying, I want to take full responsibility for this child's education because I really connect with their story or for any other reason. You can just donate partly to this total cost. This means you can donate anything. You don't have to take full responsibility, and you can start a campaign. Starting a campaign means, it could be your birthday or it could be anything, and you want to bring your friends together to do good in the society or to give back. You can start a campaign, invite your friends, and get them to donate towards the education of this child. Now, I talked a lot about our transparency model. Let me actually show it in action. So if you're a signed up user of Back to School, you get access to this dashboard, right? Whether you're using with mobile or with a laptop, you just have to go here and go to your dashboard as a signed in user. And then you can see all of the KPIs. If I've provided a sponsorship to a child, so this is, for example, all the children that I have sponsored. I can see their costs per year. I can see the amount that I have donated so far towards that sponsorship. I can see when I sponsored them. And when I click on this child's name, I go into a deeper page where I see, this is the space where I'll see their enrollment information, what class they are in, the school that they are in. And if we've sent in any reports, of course, we'll be sending in reports every term for every child that is being sponsored or every child that is being supported. We'll send in reports. So as someone who's sponsoring a child, this is where I can see all the reports that have been sent in concerning this child. And also, if I have a question or an ad hoc inquiry, this is the child's contact person. So every child has a contact person that I can ask questions, that I can, send inquiries just to get information about the child that I'm supporting. So I can just send an email to this person. Also, we see here, so you don't have to pay all of the money at once. You can pay instrumentally. So this shows you when your next installment will be due. Of course, and how much you've donated so far. So this is a page where you get an overview, and I would like to call it a connection, to the child you support. You see what your money is doing in real time. And in the reports, of course, pictures of the child's activity and everything relevant to that transparency model will be shown there. So let me just quickly show you campaigns. So just like I said, campaigns mean you want to bring your community, your network to gather around to support a child's education. These are just sample images because I'm showing you from our dev environment. So this is what a campaign would look like, right? This is not a real child, by the way. This is just our dev environment. The technical people will understand. So to start a campaign, you just have to click the Start a Campaign button. Let me show you how this works very quickly. I know I'm over time, but please bear with me. To start a campaign, you just have to fill out this information. What is your campaign title? How much? So the campaign goal is usually the amount that the child needs per year. And then you give a description to your campaign. It could be, please help this child, it's my birthday, whatever you say. Once you click on Create Campaign, that campaign comes here and appears like this. And when you click to view that campaign, you see this view. And then you can share this campaign to your friends. And when they click on the link, they come to this page where they can read everything you've written, and then they can support this child. Yes, I think I can, there's so much more to show you, but just because of time, this is also our benefit concert series, is our community mobilization.
Yeah.
Let me just round up. It's a community mobilization project. It's called Roots, where we're using music across cities in Europe to to mobilize more support for initiatives taking action. So this is what Back to School is all about. We just launched 2 days ago, and we are looking to collaborate. We're looking to work with people, organizations, individuals, and if you're someone who's interested in tech on how the platform is working, please feel free to reach out to me. And we're just looking for collaboration and working together to bring education to underserved communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That's a very, very wonderful one. Thank you. It's a very great work you are doing out there, helping children to get their feet back to school. That's a very big one you are doing out there. And of course, I want to believe that there are people that will be on this call that will be willing to support this initiative. I mean, this initiative have to travel very far and wide, even beyond the Nigerian space across Africa. Well done, and well done to you. All right, thank you so much. Right now, we'll be moving to the next thing on the agenda, which is one of our plenary section, as we'll be discussing about advancing inclusive, green, and future-ready education system in Africa. And this will be led by Meekness Lunga Hayudu. As I take a profile quickly, I want you to join me. Meekness Luga is a development professional with 15 years of experience in higher education and youth development. She has served in international organizations such as the Council for International Education Exchange and the British Council. She has a proven track record in fostering cross-sector partnerships and leading the design and implementation of impactful programs. She completed her MBA specializing in leading international organizations at Stellenbosch University Business School, Cum Laude. Meekness also holds a Master of Philosophy degree in program evaluation from the University of Cape Town. She is a passionate advocate for gender equality with women's empowerment and is actively involved in mentoring young women and girls through a global network called Project Girls for Girls. She has worked across diverse thematic areas, including access to higher education, student support, youth employability, enterprise development, gender equality, and research capacity strengthening. Among her career's achievement is the successful design and delivering of flagship higher education and science programs in South Africa and across Sub-Saharan Africa at the British Council. Join me, dear delegates, as I welcome Meekness Luga Hayudu, the Regional Director, Higher Education, Sub-Saharan Africa, British Council. You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much, and thanks for that kind introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from a sunny and very windy Cape Town, South Africa today. Standing on existing protocols, it's my pleasure and honor to be part of this timely and really crucial conversation, on transforming education systems in Africa. Our education systems are at a crossroad between maintaining traditions that have become misaligned with our realities and reimagining the role of education as a true driver of social and environmental impact. So as introduced, I lead the higher education portfolio of programs in Sub-Saharan Africa at the British Council. So my intervention will mainly focus on the post-school or tertiary education sector. And I will also attempt, if time permits, to share some real examples of initiatives that the British Council has supported on the continent under our flagship program called the Innovation for African Universities. Before I go there, I'm going to start with sharing a little personal story. So 2 decades ago, when I enrolled for my undergraduate degree, there was a shared belief amongst us as students and educators as well, that you needed to work hard, attain good grades, and receive a magical ticket to a successful life. So my university's brand color was blue, So throughout the 4 years of my degree, I had this belief that all I needed to do was to work hard to get my blue ticket, which was my degree. 20 years later, I am sad to say that many of our education systems are still very much shaped and anchored around similar beliefs, yet our context and the future prospects have drastically evolved. So before I share my thoughts and suggestions on, key gaps and actionable strategies for the transformation of education systems on our continent, I would like to just quickly introduce one of our flagship initiatives at the British Council that seeks to contribute to the transformation of tertiary education institutions and systems. So a few years ago, we launched a multi-country partnership initiative called the Innovation for African Universities. The program was developed with the youth unemployment crisis and the bulging African youth population in mind. We set out to achieve two main outcomes. One was to strengthen the capacity and capabilities of universities across sub-Saharan Africa for innovation and for entrepreneurship. As a result of that, the second objective was to actually equip students and graduates with the skills for employability as well as entrepreneurship and innovation. And to date, this program has supported over 70 partnerships involving close to 500 partners from universities across the UK and sub-Saharan Africa, working with a range of industry partners. Some of the key outcomes have included updating the curricula within our institutions to ensure that it embeds enterprise education as well as supports innovation. We have also supported the development of physical platforms and some virtual platforms, such as institution-wide incubation hubs that support student entrepreneurs to translate their ideas and research outputs into tangible products and services, both in the climate and the digital spaces. One of the outcomes has also been the establishment of industry-academia collaborations to support the driving of innovation. So overall, this program has shown that when cross-sectorial partnerships are intentionally built, they don't just support the building of relationships amongst the academics or the partners involved, or support the strengthening of institutions, but they have this ripple effect on transforming and strengthening actual systems, which is what this discussion is about, in order to also unlock the full potential of African youth. So I'd like to now segue to 4 key gaps that I see in our education system from where I sit, that I believe that they will continue to stand in the way of advancing greener, more innovative, and more inclusive systems if we don't act. One of them is approaching teaching as the transmission of knowledge. We still see this. And teaching should not be a bottom-up transmission of knowledge where the lecturer speaks and the learner absorbs. It needs to be seen as a catalyst for transformation at the individual, institutional, as well as the community and system level. So what we need are learning spaces that can spark curiosity, support creativity and problem solving, and classroom environments that don't just look like lecture halls, but also support action-oriented and practical applied learning. So the likes of labs and studios and innovation hubs that we're starting to see increasingly being developed across sub-Saharan Africa. The second biggest problem I see is outdated curriculum that is preparing students for jobs that no longer exist. We need to reimagine our curricula, ensuring that we embed digital and green education that is interdisciplinary as far as possible and also action-oriented. This will equip learners to create work for themselves and others, not just to become job seekers. The third challenge I see is that we have a lot of universities that are still disconnected from the communities that they serve. Yet we know that community engagement is one of the critical and major missions of a university. The future belongs to the institutions that will stand out by continuing to be responsive to local challenges. Institutions that don't just produce knowledge, but they ensure that the knowledge is applied to solving real life issues from food security to energy transitions and so forth. Institutions that ensure that they co-create solutions with communities and not just study communities. The last biggest challenge I see is that education is still very much a privilege for a few in many of our contexts. Yet we need to ensure that education systems are inclusive by design, that they are open, they are affordable, and they are reflective of Africa's true diversity, where every learner, regardless of background, race, gender, and other constructs, can succeed and thrive within our education systems. So let me now move on to my proposed solutions and strategies for this intervention today. So on advancing green education system, I'd say that this requires the integration of environmental sustainability across all levels of learning. Sustainability should not be seen as an elective or an optional initiative that students can participate in anymore. It needs to be embedded across everything that we do in teaching, research, as well as operations. Instead of it being taught as a subject theoretically that is disconnected from students' lives, it needs to be embedded across all disciplines. So for example, at the British Council, as part of our flagship program that I spoke about earlier, a carbon literacy and green skills initiative was created through a partnership between South African and UK universities, working with industry partners. And this initiative has created a virtual learning platform that brings climate education to students across disciplines, from engineering to business students, helping them to see how their work shapes environmental outcomes and providing a platform for them to translate their knowledge into practical solutions to gaps that they see or identify in their communities. So across some of our partnerships in this program, we have been able to enable the development of prototypes in renewable energy, in waste management, and supporting the development of startups that link sustainability to future livelihoods. So we need innovative education systems in the green economy that can turn research into solutions and support students to become change makers. Secondly, advancing future-ready education systems will require us to prepare learners for an uncertain world. For too long, many of our systems have been built around stability. So fixed curricula, slow cycles of reform, and rigid and predictable career pathways. Education systems should now be built on adaptability to prepare for creating the jobs of tomorrow. So for example, again, under our IAU program, an open innovation LMS initiative was developed that linked universities across Kenya, Ghana, and South Africa through a virtual platform for youth and student entrepreneurs. This platform enables young people to co-design business ideas around sustainability, and it also helps them to gain real entrepreneurial and digital skills for future employability, as well as translate some of their ideas into real innovations. In Nigeria, another British Council project has developed a tool that leverages AI and drone technology to map and recycle plastic waste. So students are not just using technology, but they are shaping it to solve local and environmental problems. There are more examples I could share, but in the interest of time, I think I'll continue. So in a nutshell, I'd say in order to build future-ready systems, we need to ensure that we harness the potential of young people to enable them to become the true architects of the future. The last strategy I'd like to propose is how do we advance inclusive education systems, ensuring that no one is left behind? And I think the Keynote address also alluded to this. We need transformation that leaves or does not leave, rather, anybody behind. And that is the true transformation. Inclusion should be a core performance indicator across all our institutions in order for us to claim that we are achieving institutional excellence. Some recent research from the British Council and the African Network for the Internationalization of Education showed that we have made significant progress in developing policies designed to drive inclusivity in education systems, but we still lack the effective structures and the funding mechanisms and metrics that can ensure that we translate those policies into real and meaningful action. In Ghana, another example of an initiative that the British Council has supported, a student-led platform called Mamnefo Innovation. It creates a mobile app that allows visually impaired users to withdraw money independently at ATMs. And this is just another reminder that inclusive design, that is youth-led, can benefit everyone in society. In closing, I'd like to reiterate that Africa's education systems are at a crossroad, and advancing green, future-ready, and inclusive education systems will require the adoption and mainstreaming of new models as well as mindsets. Cross-sector partnerships will be key. And lastly, commitment to real action. We cannot continue with the models and the mindsets that prepare students and learners for today. We need to commit to building education systems that truly prepare students for the future. With that, I think I will wrap it up here. Thank you. Over.
Wow, that's a very, very loaded one. Thank you so much, Madam Meekness, for that powerfully loaded message. I believe everyone on the call, most importantly, government officials, educators, school administrators, in fact, everyone on the call, we've definitely had a lot of things to deal with in the education sector based on our responsibility. I mean, you've all said it that to get into the educational space of the 21st century, it is a unanimous job. It's not just to leave it to one side of the people to keep running. And to those who manage and controls the institution, you've really sent a powerful message to them that if they still want to stay relevant in the future, then it's time to start creating solutions for the community, not just to have paperwork knowledge, but real knowledge that could bet solutions to solve the problem of the community. That's a very strong one. Thank you so much for those words. And as a matter of fact, it's something that we really need at this point in time. On this note, once again, on behalf of ADF Africa, we want to thank you for gracing this event and for the wonderful message that you've passed across to everyone on the call this moment. Thank you. All right, so I will be releasing you now, and I'll be moving on to the next agenda we have for today. Dear delegates, it's been a wonderful time this morning or afternoon or evening, depending on your time zone. So before we move to the next agenda on the call, I would just like to allow you take 60 seconds break just to, if you want to stand, you can stand. If you want to wash your eyes, wash your face, you want to stretch, you want to do whatsoever thing. So within the next 60 seconds, you can do that. Why? As you are doing that, I will be inviting the next speaker to quickly deliver his own message, and that will lead us straight to the thematic session, as we will be looking at reimagining education for a greener and sustainable Africa. Reimagining education for a greener and sustainable Africa. And this will be handled by one of our partners. We've listened to one of their representatives, and we'll be listening to another representative from Dreaming Education Partnership around Nigeria. This is no other person than Mr. Ogunbanwo Sunday Olukoya, who is the training coordinator of Dreaming Education Partnership Nigeria. We're happy to have you on the call this morning. here in Nigeria. You can proceed with your theme, reimagining education for a greener and sustainable Africa. You're welcome on board, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Oluwafemi. It's a pleasure being here. Good morning, everyone. Distinguished delegates, policymakers, I believe we have educators here, and development partners. I must say that it's been an engaging morning for me, and it's actually an honor to speak at the African Green Education Summit under the African Summit for Sustainable Development 2026. Like Mr. Oluwafemi rightly introduced, I represent Green Education Partnership Nigeria, and I'll be speaking on reimagining education for a greener and sustainable Africa. Now, this section is going to be about how we intend to move education from being part of the problem to becoming a powerful solution for Africa's sustainable future. Now, education itself as a concept is not the problem, but the design from age past is the problem. So we're going to be looking at how we can now change the narrative, given the current point that Africa is and the direction of the global village towards climate action. So let's set this in perspective. I was going through a research by Worldometer, and I was amazed to see that Africa happened to be the youngest continent globally. Now, when we talk about being the youngest continent globally, it does not really mean in terms of age, land age, or whatever, but in terms of certain metrics. Number one, the age meridian. Now, Africa has the youngest people around the age of 19. And then again, in terms of the youth population share, 60%, over 60% of Africans are around the age of 25, and 40% out of those 60% are 15 years old. So we actually have what the economics call demographic dividend, which we should harness. And if proper policies are in place, we'll be able to achieve that. But however, given all of these things that have been said, Africa is still at a point where we are the most exposed to climate risk. We face flooding, drought, food insecurity, and even energy poverty. So the question that we'll be asking ourselves now is, the education system the prevailing education system, is it actually preparing learners for climate urgency and green economy? Now, to answer this question, we need to still go back into the past. The people who designed the current education system that Africa is following now did not put into cognizance the current situation, which relates to climate risk and urgency. The design in time past centered around, carbon intensive economy. They were more interested in extractive activities and all of that. So which makes, even up to the date, although the narrative is changing gradually, and we hope that in the coming years that we're able to change that entirely, which makes within our education system, people are more interested in how you extract oil, how you make use of oil, fossil oil. They run generators. There's no attention being paid to clean energy. So all of these things are things that we are going to be looking at when we talk about reimagining our education. We need to look at where we started from, where we are, and where we are going. So the fundamental question, like I asked the other time, is, are schools preparing learners for Africa, or the Africa of tomorrow that we desire? Now, why education must be reimagined? Why it must be reimagined? Now, number one, if you remember, my first remark was we're trying to move education as a concept from being part of the problem of climate risk to becoming a powerful solution. Now, the question is, why education? Education is one of the most underestimated climate solution. People don't pay attention to it. When they talk about climate change and all of that, people think of funding, planting, planting trees, and removing waste from the environment. No, it goes beyond that. Education shapes the way we think. Education shapes the way we consume. Education shapes the way we govern. Education shapes the way we innovate. So, but in Africa, the education we have prepares us for just extractive and carbon intensive economies, like I said. So, for us to be able to build a resilient Africa and create green jobs in Africa to achieve sustainable development, education must be redesigned. And this designing of education is not just going to be incrementally, like some people who still don't understand what all of this concept is about. It's not just going to be incrementally, but it's going to be fundamentally. So we are aiming to reimagine education fundamentally and not just incrementally. Now, but for us to be able to achieve this, people must first understand what green education is. Now, when we say green education, we are not talking about adding one climate course to the already existing courses. No, green education is a whole system approach. It integrates sustainability into curriculum that are existing already, the teaching methods of our teachers, infrastructure, school infrastructure, even community infrastructures, governance, and the values that people have. So education, green education prepares learners not just to understand climate change, but to actively respond to them either ethically, economically, and socially. So people should remove their mind from, well, I will not say they should remove their mind entirely from the economical part, but they should not center all of their minds on the economical part of climate change. Because now you see, it's common practice, especially in rural areas, to see people picking, empty cans, picking empty water bottles and all of that, picking even nylon for recycling. So for them, it is just about the economical part. But for you to even approach the economical part of this climate urgency, you need to first have a change of ethics. You need to have a change of values. Values have to be imbued. We have to imbibe the value of first wanting to attain, a green environment, and that will motivate us to begin to carry out certain activities that can again boost us economically, and then socially we will be fine. Africa has a unique advantage, just like I pointed out the other time. We have the population, and unlike other countries, like in Europe, their age meridian. Europe, I think about 44 years. In North America, they're about 38 years, and in Asia, they're about 32 years. That's the median age for them. But for us in Africa, we're about 19. That means as other countries are having aging people, they are having aging population, we are having young people. So we have a unique advantage. So we are not logged into our data system in the same way as older economies. Our youthful population, indigenous knowledge, and innovation potential here has allowed us to leapfrog into green education models. So instead of copying system that created today's climate crisis, like I said, in our schools, rather than sticking to them, Africa can design education that align with sustainability from the start. We are still, we still follow like they will say religiously. We are still very dogmatic in following those things. I remember when back then in the university, uh, when you are in 100 level, they would ask you to go to somebody who is in 200 level to get, the course material for what you that are in 100 level now, what you'll be taking when you get to 200 level. And we keep passing the same thing down. When you approach 300 level, you meet somebody who is living 300 level. And for years, for decades, we keep recycling the same model of education curriculum, passing it down. And this model of education curriculum that we have does not put into consideration the sustainability of Africa. Now, the video clip that was played before the commencement of this summit today, shared a lot of going back in the 70s, they were already talking about, the sustainability of the world at that time. Meanwhile, Africa was nowhere to be found. So we need to rise. So we need to move away from using the continued using of the old model that has created the problem that we are facing today. Now, those curriculum created this model because it was just about let's go and extract, let's flare gas, which are part of the things that are causing the climate crisis that we're having today. There are progress that we have made. We will not deny that in our education system, but there are gaps that are still there. Climate content is often fragmented and just theoretical. The problem we are faced with is entirely practical. So, but the kind of model that we're even building now is basically theoretical. Although we thank God we're having young people who are coming up. Thank you, back to school, for that innovation on the how you creating a platform that can connect school children, out of school children, to available funds, and also calling people to pull funds together to be able to bring these children back to school. These are practical moves. These are practical steps that goes beyond just going to read theories. So, and these things are supposed to be brought together, not leaving them in bits, because most of those things are fragmented. This one has it, that other one has it. For instance, social study is facing this direction, physical education is facing this direction. So all of them are just fragmented. But we need to create a system that brings all of these things together for us to have a single, they will call it unity of purpose. If you are teaching social study, sustainability is part of what you're thinking of. If you're teaching physical education, sustainability of Africa is part of your focus. If you're teaching a science course, law, whatever it is you're teaching, sustainability is part of what you should have as your focus. Now, part of the gap is teachers are rarely trained to teach sustainability confidently. Most of the schools are using Nigeria mostly. Most of the schools, most of the teachers just go to school. They themselves are being taught based on the old model. So most of them graduate from the College of Education or even from the university, coming bearing the old model. And it is what you know. You cannot give what you don't have. It is the bulk that you know that you pass down to the coming generation. So it's a gap. So education planning is disconnected from labor markets and green job opportunities. All of these things are not taught within the walls of the schools. And critically, education environment and economic policies are often operate in silos. Even our ministries, different ministries have different policies without them having a comprehensive and integrated policy that speaks to climate action and sustainability. So all of these things are gaps that must be addressed systematically. For us in Green Education Partnership, we have four pillars that guides us. And I'll be sharing those four pillars because those four pillars, they are like the framework that will eventually help us to reimagine, create a new image, create a new system, and create a new model for the education system. These pillars will provide us with a practical roadmap that will move us from just ideas to implementation. It will move us from just the theoretical part of all of these things that we're talking about to full practical and then implementation, like I said. So they address what is taught. Those are pillars that address what is taught. It addresses who teaches. Now, what I mean by what is taught is we are looking at greening curriculum. Greening curriculum. Then who teaches? That addresses who teaches, is addressing greening teachers. Then we have where learning happens. Now, talking about the infrastructure, greening school, that talks about the infrastructures that are available for, that makes it conducive for teaching green education, and then what skills are being developed, and so on and so forth. So I'll start with the greening curriculum. Now, curriculum reform is fundamental. It is very foundational because climate literacy should be embedded across all disciplines. It should not be treated as a standalone topic. Learners should engage in project-based learning. We have said we are moving away from theory. So we want to engage in project-based learning that solves real environmental problems in their communities. Now, students should be able to go to school, and when they get to school, the first thing that comes to their mind is, that tree that I planted yesterday, I should be able to, to go there, check how the plant is growing, and nurture it to maturity, bearing in mind that you are doing something for the future. It is not just going to be about, it's not going to be compulsion. They are not going to be compelled. We are building a curriculum that naturally makes you feel, take some of those, it makes you take up those responsibility, and you see them as what you should do. So learners should engage in project-based learning that solves real environmental problems in their communities. So this will make education relevant, practical, and locally grounded. Now, the second part is who teaches. Teachers as catalysts, they are the backbone of any education reform. We cannot expect green outcomes if teachers themselves are not empowered. You can't give what you don't have. So the teachers themselves have to be empowered. They need to be taught using the green curriculum for them to be able to exude what it means to, to pursue sustainable development through climate actions. So this requires training, professional support, and incentive for innovation. So it is then that teachers will understand what sustainability is, and then they become role models to to the people under them, and not just instructors as we have always known them. So because of want of time, I'm trying to rush over what I have. Then we're talking about green schools and infrastructure. Schools are powerful learning tools beyond textbooks. When students learn energy efficiency, climate stats, I mean, if they find themselves in climate smart environments, sustainability becomes real. Because when you look around, what you're seeing is green. When you look towards this direction, you are seeing clean energy. When you look towards you look up, you're seeing a clean environment that is void of, that is void of items that can actually be recycled to make money. Um, Nylon, waste cans, and all of that. Those things become value to them, and they begin to operate as such. Why? Because every time they come around, they find themselves in an energy efficient environment. They find themselves in a climate smart environment. So they begin to think sustainability. So we need to do something about this, creating infrastructures that enable students to think sustainability. Part of the things schools should begin to think of is, rather than using the normal, some schools still use generator till now, which is carbon intensive. So rather than using that, they can begin to shift to solar powered energy. They can begin to think of water conversion. They can begin to think of recycling, and making students to create gardens. They can give portions to students within the school environment to build gardens and to tend them to maturity. There was a particular project I saw in the school. Each of the students has their name tagged on a particular tree. So if, for instance, a particular tree is given to me, Olukoya, and I'm the one tending it, on the tree it is written Olukoya, and the tree grows thereby. So even in 20 years, when I come back, I'll come back to see that, this tree, I was the one that planted it 20 years ago. That's sustainability. And that's what we are talking about. So we need to, begin to inculcate this into the students through the kind of climate smart environment we are creating for them to study. So in this way, infrastructure reinforces learning outcomes for them. Now, the fourth pillar is going to be talking about the community, greening the communities. And that is where majorly, because the community is mostly interested in what they get when they do this. So we'll be talking about it in terms of economy. So African Greens transition will fail without skilled people. We have said that. So education must align with emerging green sectors. We'll use our training centers. There are a lot of vocational training centers in Nigeria, and I'm sure we have them across Africa like that. We use our universities our informal learning centers. Some people even use churches and mosques as training centers. Why? So that they will be able to bring community people together to train them in the line of climate, for them to be able to understand what green education is about. And then it's not just about, mostly I'm trying to see how I can, how I can paint it such that even you yourself are already seeing yourself as a community member. Because most time when you come to a community, I'm using Nigeria as a role model now, as a model for this explanation. Now, when you come into a particular community and you're telling them just come for training, they are not ready to listen to you. Why? Because they are thinking of what am I getting in return. We are like we have been programmed that way. So, but you're able to, with the use of our university environment, the use of informal learning environment, and even our vocational training centers, we're able to let them know that, okay, as you're doing this, you're also earning some money, which is one of the innovation that Green Education Partnership is already working on. The innovation is in the pipeline, and when it is ready, we'll be sharing it with the world. It's something that's going to help the community to translate into climate smart communities, and that's going to work if every one of us come together to do it the way we are doing it right now. So, using that particular system, and be able to work together to prepare learners for decent green jobs and self-employment, thereby reducing the level of unemployment in Africa. And in doing all of these things, there must be transformation that comes not by goodwill alone, but by everyone, every hands being on deck, everyone having the willingness to want to be part of the move. It requires supportive policies, sustainable financing, and strong partnership. Government must mainstream green education into national plans. The private sector, development partners, youth, civil society, name them, we are all critical to making this happen. Now,
Oh, well done, sir. Your mic is muted. You are still speaking, but your mic is muted.
okay.
Yeah, you are back. Thank you.
Okay, so can you please, at what point did you miss me? Did you lose me?
So just now, just like 3 seconds, not so much.
Okay, so I was trying to say that the issue before us is not a Nigerian issue, it's not a Ghana issue, it's not a South African issue. It's a continental challenge that requires continental action, and that is why I want to applaud the organization that put this together. That this is the right step in the right direction. Africa must place green education at the center of agenda. The SDG 4, SDG 7, SDG 13, SDG 15, SDG 17, all of this SDG must, must be placed as our priority. And our national development strategy must also, embed climate urgency into all of the plans. So we must invest now, must coordinate better, and listen to young people who would inherit the consequence of our decision, because they're actually the larger part of the the population. And I look around and I see that we have a lot of us here. So the baton is being passed down to us, and then we have to take this as a challenge to ensure that, yes, even if our parents have, they did their part. We wouldn't call that failure. It was their part. It was the extent they could view it, and now we can see better. So we should be able to do it better, so that the generation after us, the generation coming behind us, will be able to say, "Wow, we have a future," because some people sometimes were able to, look beyond the present to develop and design something that is sustainable for them. The cost of delay is far greater than the cost of reform. So it doesn't matter how much it costs. Let's keep doing it. Education can either deepen vulnerability. I'll conclude by saying that education can either deepen vulnerability or unlock resilience and prosperity. If we stick to the old, if we stick to the old curriculum, the old model, it deepens vulnerability. But we can as well unlock resilience and prosperity by reimagining education and creating a new model after the new order. Let us choose an education system that empowers Africa to thrive. Let's choose green. Let's choose inclusivity and sustainability. Thank you. And I'll hand over to Mr. Oluwafemi. Thank you for listening.
Wow. That's a powerful lecture. Allow me to make use of the word lecture that you have just done. That's a very, very laudable one. Thank you so much for opening our eyes to how we can reshape the education sector, how we can have a rethink about how to deliver to our younger generation in schools, in environments, not just talking about formal education alone, but also placing important premium on the informal education sector so as to have a unified, well-grained education sector across Africa. Thank you for that powerful messages and delivery that you have just done. We sincerely appreciate, and we want to say a very big thank you to you and the entire organization, Greening Africa, Greening Partnership Organization. Thank you so much for what you are doing, and we celebrate you, we celebrate your works. So without wasting any time now, we want to quickly move to the next thing we have on the agenda. And as we are preparing to do that, I want to also use this time to celebrate every delegate on the call. Thank you for staying with us till now. And your comments on the YouTube, it's very, very motivating. Thank you. Thank you. We acknowledge that. I can see a lot of comments saying, wow, this is wonderful. Africa must work together. We must collaborate together to achieve sustainability in the educational space. We have all the resources that we're in need of. Collaboration is key. Yeah, thank you for all the comment. We appreciate everyone. So right now we'll be going into another powerful section, that's panel section and interactive discussion, and we'll be looking at a very important topic that says empowering African youth as co-creators of a transformative and sustainable education landscape. And these will be led by the regional lead of INVDF Africa, another person than Mr. Emmanuel Olaoluwoyo. He will be leading the panel section this afternoon. Mr. Emmanuel, we can have you on the call. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oluwafemi. Thank you for that insightful engagement so far. And I also want to greet each and every change makers that are on this call. We really appreciate you. I mean, every delegate joining across the live streaming platforms. It's been an insightful one, and I think it's also important and in place to say Happy International Day of Education to every amazing policymaker and change maker driving sustainable educational reforms across Africa and beyond. Before we go into this session fully, I felt it's also important for me to recognize the presence of the national focal person. I thought I saw Engineer Amam Mogaji on the call earlier, but it's also important for me to recognize his presence. And we getting to host to this event together, we appreciate the good work which you are doing at Greening Education Partnership Nigeria. And to our esteemed facilitators, our esteemed guest speakers, we really want to appreciate you for the insightful session thus far. This session is going to be very participatory, it's going to be very engaging, and I'm glad to be doing this because also a youth, each and every one of us, even if you've clocked 50, you're a youth. Today's International Day of Education is definitely focused on youths as co-creators for promoting education. And this session, which we're diving into, is very key and very germane, which is we getting to look at the aspect of how we can empower African youth as these co-creators of transformative and sustainable educational landscape in Africa. And this morning, I have some great speakers, some experts on this call, who we are going to be having this discussion together. Like I said, it's going to be an interactive discussion. And for all our delegates, please feel free to also drop your questions in the chat box. Definitely, I know the programs team are available to pick that. Yeah. And the very first person I'm going to be introducing in no due order is I'm going to be bringing Mrs. Ngozi Unamane, who is the Vice Principal of Green Education, the Lagoon School. Very good morning, Mrs. Ngozi. It's a great pleasure to have you on this call this morning. We'd just love to have you say hello to us before we dive into this panel session. Your mic is muted if you are speaking, Ngozi.
Everyone.
Oh, great. Great. We can
Okay.
hear you now. We can hear you
Fantastic.
now. Very perfect.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you, Emmanuel, and the co-organizers of this fantastic event. I've been listening since it started, and I think it's just amazing, and it's good that we're having this. And thank you for having me.
Okay, so also on this call this morning, I also have, I hope I'm going to, I have to rehearse this name properly because I don't like mispronouncing people's name. But in person of Mr. Ogwere Henry, who is the head of partnership and social engagement for Greening Education Partnership Nigeria. Mr. Henry, it's a great delight to have you on this session this morning. We'd love to hear from you. Good morning to you as well.
Good morning to you, Mr. Emmanuel. Good morning to everyone participating. And I'm glad to be here. And it's been a wonderful engagement since we started, and a lot of notes I've taken. And it has been insightful. And thank you for having me.
Oh, great. Okay. Also, we have an amazing development practitioner in the sustainable development space, in person of Mr. Omoni Lovsin, who is the managing partner, Area Center for Digital Development and Innovations Research. Very good afternoon. It's an afternoon. Good afternoon, Lovsin. It's a great delight to have you on this call. We'd love to hear from you as well before we get into the session.
Hello, Emmanuel. Good afternoon, everybody. It's an honor to be here to be
okay.
Very important session. Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you very much, Lausin. We just appreciate. Okay, I was going to make that request before, but I see your video is on now, so you can dive into this very great session with this amazing and beautiful speakers. Thank you so much for being part of this. This morning, we're going to be discussing more strategies on how we can get to empower African youth as co-creators. Truly, we know that Africa has that youthful population, and these are a set of youths that are very energetic, that are very passionate about sustainable development, that are very passionate about their continent. And, it's very, very important for us to ensure that this category of change makers are well positioned, they are well enlightened. So this session is going to be exploring on how we can empower African youth as partners, building education systems that are equitable, future ready, and also responsive to challenges and opportunity of the 21st century. There's this common term which they always say that ladies first. Even though I don't know if it is money, we still make use of ladies first. So I'm going to be directing my question to you first, Ngozi, and definitely I get to come to Lausin and Henry. There's this very first question which I want to ask on what do you think, what is the best approach whereby African youth can be effectively positioned as co-creators shaping education in Africa?
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to take the lead. And this is a topic that I am very passionate about. So in response to that question, I would say three things, right? I would say one, we need to think a lot about letting learners take agency of their learning, right? Some of our speakers have somehow implicitly made reference to that. We still operate in a kind of like academic environment where the teacher is the master of it all and know it all. And I give you knowledge, I give you information, and then you digest. But many things in today's world, especially with the way data is everywhere and the accessibility of information, helped also by the advancement of AI. It's also reminding us that it's not now about content, but we need to go beyond that, right? And I work with young people from ages 4 to 18 and even older. And I have seen that when you let them take the lead of their learning, when they're the agents of their learning, they do amazing things, right? The second thing I was going to say, so the first is agency. The other one is giving due importance to character and virtues, right? So many times when we talk about education in Africa, we are thinking access, we're thinking skills, we're thinking resources, right? But I think it's very important that we go back to values, virtues, character, who the human person is. I liked what the previous speaker shared about, helping young people think beyond the economy and the finances. And that's like one of the things I tell the young people I work with. When you're thinking about a career, think beyond the money you're going to make from it, but rather think about how you're going to help transform people and what are you going to add to the common good and how do you make people be better people. So I believe very much in integrating values and virtue education in the curriculum, because it's also a way of getting people to use their agency right. So if they take agency of their learning, they would use it right, because this helps you to know what is right, what is wrong. Why am I doing this and for who, and what am I adding to the community? And character education also helps with sustainability. It also helps with thinking about green economy and a green society, because what are things you teach in character education? You teach things like kindness, care, integrity, compassion, and this helps them to think beyond themselves and to think about other people and also about the creation. And the third one is community engagement. I think it's very important. I work at the Lagoon School. I would say that Lagoon School has about 95% of children from well-established homes. And to be honest, quite a number of them that don't live in the reality of Nigeria, right? Because they are not in contact with the real Nigerians. So they go from their house to school and to their church or place of worship or whatever else, but they don't actually get in touch with, the real Nigerians, the ones who have to work hours to get to school, or who are not even in school because they cannot afford to do that. So I think that it's important that there's an intentionality in connecting children like this to the real Nigeria, right? So and that's part of what we do at the Lagoon School. We usually create opportunities for them to go to communities where children suffer, where they don't have food, and you see that they start thinking right. And over the years, we've had young people start like nonprofits, to help support the learning and education of others. I think I'll just leave that for now here so that I can give others a chance and not take all the time talking.
Wow, that's so amazing. Thank you very much, and thank you for also coupling that with the very good work which you do at Lagoon School. Still coming back to you, Mr. Henry, I would just appreciate you get to share, because definitely I know you hold more position coming from the aspect of governance and policy. What would you like to say to that very top area which we just discussed, looking at how we can get to empower African youths as active partners and co-creators in shaping educational policies in Africa?
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you, Madam Ngozi, for your answers to the questions. So in addition to that, there's something one of our representatives, my boss, Mr. Koya, said. He said we have to look at the modeling. So what is this modeling? The model that is existing now has to be changed, but at Green Education Partnership, we say transformed. Now, if, for example, I get to start interacting with a new curriculum at the age of, let's say, 10, before I get to 18, I'm very conversant with what a green economy is. I'm very conversant with what a green skill is. I'm very conversant with what a green curriculum is. It's easy for me now to become that change agent, or that agent that the speaker was talking of, the previous speaker now, Madam Ngozi was talking about. So it's just about capacity building. And at Green Education Partnership, what we focus on is capacity building. So you want to empower the youth, is capacity. You have to improve their knowledge, improve their understanding, and you empower them with skills. So because if they don't have the capacity, they can't go there and become co-creator of anything. So for our own concept, it's just about capacity building, and it starts early enough, early as possible. So when you talk about greening the curriculum, we are looking at as low as 4 down to when you post-tertiary. So if that capacity is there, you find the youth become willing, because like you also said, you don't give what you don't have. So that's it. So on the aspect of policy from the government, Nigeria is filled with policies. Sorry to say that. We have too many policies. When it comes to implementation, that's where the problem is. Like for us, we have engaged a lot of ministries. We have our MOUs with a lot of ministries. We have our MOUs with a lot of institutions. And we see that beyond these MOUs, let's take action. So the government needs to start taking action. It's not enough for you to say, oh, I'm putting solar panel in my school. That's greening the school. No, that's not it. That's not it. And in terms of the youth now being part of this policy, the youth have to be engaged. So NYC is supposed to be one of the entry points to engage this youth. So you send the youth to a school and say, okay, go and be a teacher there. That particular government policy of saying, while you are in the NYC camp, let's introduce you to what a green economy or what sustainable development is, what education for sustainable development is, or what a green community is. So those are the things we are looking forward to, because we are working seriously on it. So you have the corpus now, they are part of what we call our green core. Then we believe that with the capacity we've given to them, they should be able to go as teachers and start doing minor changes. Then when we have the data, we can see what the data says. So let me allow you through the next question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that, which you've just shared. That's so insightful and detailed. Yes, there are quite a lot of things which we can do for you, even not leaving it to the government alone. Definitely right from our respective organizations and institutions. However, there are quite a lot of challenges this African youth faces when it comes to educational decision making. I think I'm just going to direct this question to Lawson, because definitely I know you have quite a lot of engagement with youth both in the urban and rural area. What do you think are the most pressing barriers to youth participation? But beyond that, how do you think these challenges, barriers can be overcome at the national and subnational level?
Okay, thank you very much for your question. I think I would start from a global perspective and then draw it down into Africa and our Nigerian context as it seems. So globally, I belong to the UNESCO SDG for Youth and Student Network, which has a permanent seat in the SDG for High Level Steering Committee rather, for the entire education landscape globally. And what that means for young people and our voices is that we're not just on the decision table, we are also implementing, we are also governing, and we are also serving as oversight for every education policy across the world. Now, if we look at that structure and we begin to trickle down into our African landscape, what I've come to realize is that when we're talking about co-creation, particularly in the African context, what we really mean is bringing youth into panel discussions only, or bringing youth into supposed decision making. And I feel those efforts serve mostly as crowdsourcing for ideas and not necessarily that leads or translates into implementation. And so I believe that while we have ideas as young people, once we come to tables where we are supposedly coming to put forth our ideas, it ends there. There's no follow-up, there's no implementation. Young people are not brought into those implementation structure as it is globally. Because one thing I believe that UNESCO did with the SDG for Youth and Student Network was to not just make young people as decision makers or co-designers of these plans, but to also strategically put them. Currently, I serve as the co-chair for the AI digital and digital transformation for the entire network. And what that means is I'm not just making decisions as regards artificial intelligence or digital learning representing the youth, but I'm also in charge of implementing to see that those decisions we've made actually come into fruition, something that people can see and it works. For example, in Nigeria now, if last year particularly, I've attended a lot of events around education, particularly even the Nigerian Education Forum. And yes, a lot of stakeholders came together, spoke about ideas, and it, as far as I'm concerned, the voices of young persons or young people would most likely just end in those conferences or in those forums. There is no translation from evidence that I've gathered to actions that can be executed and people can see. So that for one is a challenge, bringing people and translating them from just people who are co-designing solutions to people who are actually overseeing, implementing, and also governing the fruition of those solutions. So that's like a very, very major aspect that I see, that if young people can come into the end to end from decision making to implementation and governance, I think it will bridge a lot of gap in how we see sustainable education going forward. The truth is 2030 is barely 6 months, 6 years or 5 years from now. And I can say for a fact that we are far from achieving all the indicators of the SDG4 as it's been stated. And I think it's largely because, like Mr. Henry mentioned, we have a lot of policies, but implementation is lacking. And I feel that young people are as much as enthusiastic as we are. Once we begin to put them as part of the implementers, this gap between policy and implementation will close drastically. And so I think that government should really look into not just bringing young people as decision makers or people who are co-designing ideas, but also infuse implementation and action. I think it will bridge a lot of gap in bringing those into fruition. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Lawson, for those very insightful information shared. And I'm just going to come to Ngozi. That you mentioned, you referred to some of your networks getting to start their own initiative right now. But looking at the core part of education, I want to ask that what role beyond what we do, like getting to set up, say that you are running a social enterprise NGO, specifically, what role can youth play in bridging formal, non-formal education to create that holistic, inclusive, and future-ready education ecosystem in Africa, whereby they are not just going to say that they are limited when it comes to financing, or they are limited due to one issue or the other. I will appreciate you kindly speak to that, Mercy.
Oh, I think that one thing, I would go back to what I was saying about agency, right? Giving agency to the young people. I think we still very much undermine the capacity of younger people in our country, right? And I see that in many organizations and in many initiatives. I'll share with you a very personal example, which has nothing to do with what we're talking about exactly. So once I was trying to come up with like a new procedure and a process, right? So I was writing in my office at work in the school, trying to resolve this, and a student walks in and has something to share, some personal concerns. And then when she's done sharing her personal concerns, I give my own advice, support, and also have a nice day, bye. But then the student turns back and asks me, what are you look worried, what are you doing, what are you working on? Well, I said, well, I'm trying to resolve this, and I've been trying to crack my head around it. And then she asked, what are you trying to achieve? And I explained. And to be very honest, in 2 minutes, she gave me the plan. Like, this is what you should do. Just do this and do that. And that was it. So I'd go back to the same thing. We need to give them agency and open up opportunities, especially through the curriculum, so that even from when people are very young, like even from 4 years, 5 years, they are already thinking of startups. They're already thinking of, what they can do by themselves in their small communities, like in their families, in their homes. Our curriculum is very much lacking on this. It's all about go study, write your exams, ace your exams. But if we shift the focus from exams, test scores, and all of those, and give a lot more of emphasis on projects, project-based learning. I also like to emphasize on that a lot, project-based learning. You give them opportunities to make a recommendation, write a letter, to the local government chairman or to the state government or to the commissioner about this issue we've identified. But of course, they won't do all of these things if they are not even sensitized about the issues that there are, right? But then by the time they start influencing, if you take your students to go to for instance, to meet a commissioner or to meet the state government, and they have a meeting and they talk about a particular thing, you see that the child is already thinking that, oh yeah, I can be part of this change. So as they grow older, they very much, they'll very much easily start up things, see themselves as part of the solution, and not think, well, there's nothing I can do. How do I get the next ticket to the next country where I can thrive and have a better education and because Nigerians live Nigeria and they're making a lot of impact in different parts of the world. We don't want to go into that. But it's nice, but at the same time, it's sad because you're like, this person can do 10 times what they're doing, in other countries. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that thought. And there are quite a lot of things which we can do. And I'm always proud of Africans, not just Nigerians alone. Get to work with so many Africans across, at least in over 30 African youths and thereabouts, to see the amazing ideas and impacts which they have made, even with little resources which they have. And I won't say unenabling environments. Come to the point you mentioned that when they get to a particular community where they have the enabling environment, it gives them more opportunity to make huge impact. I'm just going to come back to Lausin. There's this aspect of learning, which I believe is one of your area of strength as well, which I will love you speak on. How can digital platforms and other innovative technology be more leveraged by African youths to expand access, equity, and sustainability in the context of African education?
Okay, thank you for your question. So I'm going to say two things. Firstly, I manage innovations particular the 100 Academy. And over the last 2 years, I've been a reviewer for the Global Challenge by MIT, so judging particularly education solutions across the world. And a lot of things that I have noticed, particularly the solutions from Africa, is that we do not build contextually relevant solutions for our people. One thing I've come to realize is that we see solutions that work somewhere, let's say in Europe, and we just, this thing is nice, and then we copy without necessarily finding ways to refine it to fit into our own particular context. And at the end of the day, we realize that we're not getting the desired results that we want to achieve. I'm going to give an example. There's a solution we use in the organization where I consult for. It's called Fast Track. Fortunately, it won the UNESCO Prize for Literacy 2 years ago. Now, they combine a particular technology they call the text-to-speech assistive technology, where you place a pen on a particular text, and in the child's language, you can hear the object or the word at which you pointed the pen at. Imagine that kind of solution that is being codified in Hausa to English, and you take it to a place like, let's say, Ogun State, and you still leave it as Hausa. The truth is, while it has worked in northern Nigeria, you would see that you're not able to achieve any solution in western Nigeria, specifically because you've not codified it to fit the context of western Nigeria, which is Yoruba to English. So if developers of EdTech or developers of digital platform can really look into contextuality for any solution we're looking at, particularly for me, I consider myself as a human-centered engineer. And what that means is that before we build any tool or we decide on use the platform, we think about the persons who will be busy. Because I've come to realize that people are different and demographic is also different based on context. Those like even age as a demography, gender as a demography, even ability as a demography. If I'm building a solution for women, for instance, I need to speak to women to really understand their pain points so that I can tailor the solution to fit them. But we realize that people who develop the solutions are more profit-centered than people-centered. So that at the end of the day, they're not necessarily thinking about who are the persons that are actually going to use this solution. They're just looking at how much are we going to get from this solution. And at the end of the day, we have a lot of tools that are not really translating into quality learning outcomes or even quality instructions for the students and also for the teachers. So particularly for me, I would say all contextualization is the first thing, and then having the actual users in the mind who are going to be using the solution are like two major factors that if we're going to develop any solution, once we can solve these two issues, we are 80% above the threshold to achieve quality learning and quality instruction. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We are really out of time now, and I would just appreciate we get to close up the session. Please, if you have a question, kindly drop it in the comment section. I'll be happy to take questions. Please, the program manager, I'll appreciate if you can drop every questions that delegates have on this back-end studio, which we are currently on. And I want to quickly drop this question for Henry before we go to our closing thought for today. What measurable outcome should youth co-creation in education aim for by 2020, just like 2030, just like Lawson said the other time? We are just pretty like 4 to 5 years away from 2030. And looking at we are ensuring Africa education system are inclusive, sustainable, and future ready. What measurable outcome should we anticipate? I will appreciate you get to speak to it as Henry. Yeah, Henry, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great.
I can hear you. So now Mr. Lawson talked about the digital space, I think we are now in the world of, I don't want to call it the fifth revolution or how they call it now. That means everything is fast. The only way we can measure is through data. So when we want to say, okay, how do we get youth to be better co-creator, is the data. What is the data saying? Like he gave an illustration of solutions and how their data is able to know what is wrong and what is right. So for me, the first things first in Nigeria, because we have a lot of partnerships going on, I'm careful what to discuss and what not to discuss. But for me, the first things on a general note, the first things first in Nigeria is what happens to our graduates. People are leaving school daily, and like Madam Ngozi said, we want to talk about the brain drain that is going on. So what is the plan for our graduates? What measurable solution? I think the digital space, or should I say digital influence, is one of the ways we can start dragging the attentions of young people to what they can do to impact education, rather than having influencers talk about whatever they are talking about, whatever they feel they want to TikTok or Facebooking or whatever. We should start looking at ways to influence their minds through the digital space to say, okay, education is a pillar. This is how you've gotten this far. What can you do? So spaces like this, we can start having more spaces like this, but this time the target is the young people, to bring them up, and we can start having competitions like what solutions should be funded, what solutions should be, what's the word now, catalyzed, or what solutions should be mentored. That's the word, mentorship. So when we have solutions that should be mentored, we have young people come together and say, oh, we have these solutions. We look at it, it's not good enough. It's not enough for us to discard. We have to find a way to say, okay, how do we mentor these people? That's still part of capacity building. How do we get them to understand their role? So until we start doing that, there's nothing to measure. Now, when you talk about inclusive, I want to go back to what Madam Ngozi said about community engagement. A lot of community engagement is supposed to be happening at the higher education level, because I deal with a lot of professors. I understand when you say a course is designed, there's always room for presentation. And sometimes they used to have community engagement, but sometimes you find out that it's just an elective course. You have just go to the community, especially for medical sciences. They have to go and do community outreach, go and take care of one or two persons. Beyond that, we need to have a way to have more community engagement so that these young people go out there and see the reality. I beg to differ from Madam Ngozi. We are all Nigerians. She said the real Nigerians. We are the real Nigerians. So, so we have to find a way. We have to find a way to get young people to start seeing what the reality is. You want to go to UK to enjoy the systems that they built. You look at your own system. What solution can you create? So when they start having that engagement, automatically, because of the capacity we can start seeing, or we can start giving them, you can see sustainability in whatever they are designing. We're talking about project-based learning or project management or project design. Sustainability has to be part of those terms. One of the speakers, the speaker from the British Council, she was talking about there's something she was talking about. I think I wrote it down here. Talking about an LMS program for Kenya, South Africa, and I was waiting to hear Nigeria. So why are they limiting it? These are part of the problems, are part of the issues. You are talking about inclusiveness, but you are making exclusive decisions. But let me not go there. So finally, talk about future ready. Mentorship is the solution to making anybody future ready, because I have gone before you. I'm seeing the road, I'm seeing the pathway, I'm seeing the challenges. And for me, I can now look back and say, oh, don't go this way, go that way. This is how it can help. Then let me wrap up with addressing what Madam Ngozi said about character. There's a concept that the Americans are using to build character. They call it socio-emotional learning. I'm part of that concept too. So the idea is that when you talk about socio-emotional learning, you have to now talk about the 5 pillars: self-awareness, self-regulation and management, social awareness, responsible decision-making, relationship skill. Now, young people have to have those competencies. That's what engage you. That's what will take you in Africa to attract global attention. Those are the things that when Nigerians are abroad, they are still suffering. Let's not assume that everybody that lives in this country is enjoying. It's not true. Some people, they work 26 hours. They have extra 2 that they have to keep the next day to compensate. So this country
Wow.
is still fresh. This country is still fresh. Like my boss Koya said, the country is still fresh, young population. We have energy. What we need now is competence, character,
Absolutely.
and perhaps the
Absolutely.
right push. I don't want to talk about funding because we won't live here. So thank you very much.
And I think I will add something to that, perseverance as well. There, we need to imbibe the spirit of perseverance. And more importantly, African youth also needs to imbibe the spirit of collaboration, not getting to do things alone. I get to pack all of these very important points in a book I just recently written, The Changemakers Code. We get to share that later with the general public. But we have some very important questions in the comment section, and I would just quickly like we speak to them. However, we might not be able to treat all of these questions. Josh asked a question that how can we unilaterally apply this new education system across Africa, even though we face language barrier? Lawson, I will appreciate you just briefly respond to this question, while I share the next question with Ms. Ngozi. I'm still seeing a lot of questions from Josh. I think, yeah, but it's still very, very important. He said, how can African government and development partners move beyond policy discussion to ensure concrete, measurable implementation of SDGs at the local and community level, especially for youths? So part of which has been addressed, but I think we'll just quickly speak to that in a minute each. And the last question, which I'm going to pose to Mr. Henry, is what practical mechanism is okay? I think that's going to be to the organizer now. Please, Henry, I will appreciate you get to respond to your question, which has to do with how can we unilaterally apply the new education system across Africa, even though we face language barrier.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. At the end of the day, I think it's important to note that language in itself is a tool for learning. And once that is established, then we cannot, as in, rule it out because language now makes education contextual to people. So if we're looking at a unilateral form where we can look beyond language barrier, what we could do mostly is just set systems that can work across what the languages that we already have. However, we cannot necessarily overrule language because language in itself is a medium for learning. Because I think sometime last year, the Minister of Education in Nigeria was in an event and mentioned that the local languages will no longer be used as a medium of learning in Nigerian schools, which caused a lot of uproar. And according to UNESCO, it has been established that a mother tongue should be a form of, as in the primary form of learning. So those are like different perspectives from a global partner and the minister of Nigeria in our own country. But so now we will now ask the question, which of these statements is being backed up by data? Which of these statements is being backed up by evidence? Now, which one would actually work in an ideal situation? Which one would just work based off of you're trying to get attention of persons to maybe lobby or something. So those are like very, very intricate questions that we could ask. But at the end of the day, we cannot necessarily overrule language in itself because in itself, it forms the foundation for learning across every spectrum, both from primary education down to tertiary education. So if we're talking about a natural spectrum of learning, I think organizations like UNESCO actually have documentation that form systems are basic that government can look into and trickle down. But then when it now comes to individual countries, there are contexts that are different because the context in Nigeria would always be different from the context in Ghana and in South Africa. so that those countries can now have like a foundation which would be unilateral across board, but they'll now still break down into their own context to fit in their people. I think that would be the way to go. I don't know if that answers the
Great,
question.
great, great, great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that, Lausin. And yeah, I know definitely we have participants cutting across African countries, not just Nigerians. But please, at any point in time whereby you hear a speaker mentioning Nigeria, they're only using that as a case study. I could remember Mr. Henry mentioned when Madam Meekness was mentioning other countries, but he virtually didn't hear Nigeria. So now it's balanced. So definitely we believe that no country is left behind. We are very ensuring that we ensure that this is very inclusive as well. But straight to the question to you, Madam Ngozi, how do you think African governments and development partners can move beyond policy discussion and ensure concrete, measurable implementation of SDGs across community level and local level? Just in 2 minutes.
Okay, I'll try my best actually to respond to that in less than 2 minutes. And I think there are lots of policies, there are lots of ideas, there are lots of projects, start and die, or even ghost projects or ghost policies. We have a lot of that. And when, I think that's a very important question. How can, government and developmental institutions go beyond policies to actually doing things? And personally, I think is personal convictions, right? Personal convictions and personal values. Like we all have to stop thinking about me, my own things and think beyond me and think about the common good, because I think that's what kills projects in Nigeria, in South Africa, in Ghana, in Cameroon, in all the countries of Africa. I have friends from different parts of the country, and it's so sad that sometimes when you're having conversations and you're just hearing similar things, or sometimes my brother said, I think there's an African curse, right? Because how come the same thing is happening to all of us in different ways with our uniqueness, but it's the same thing. Now, sometimes some people say it's okay to be selfish, but don't let it show, right? So if you're going to do something, even if there's a selfish intention for this nonprofit you're starting, or for this, whatever, I'm not for that, but then do something, implement, do what you've asked to do. But I think we can only do that if each one is personally convinced, right, to make it work. And, also exercises a high level of personal values in what they are doing. And then to wrap up, my own solution to that, I see it as long-term, right? Sometimes I'm like, adults, well, there's no more hope for you because, and that's why I'm personally convinced that it's important that in the curriculum for early years, especially starting from early years, we start creating that awareness to help people to think beyond themselves and to think about the common good. I think that it is very important that in the curriculum, there's an explicit, there's an explicit effort to help younger children think about others, to think about others, your family, your communities, your country, Africa as, a continent. And I think get us somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Ngozi. You've just shared a closing thought with us, because I was going to ask you to share your closing thoughts, but those are very good points which you've shared with each and everyone. But I'm still coming to you, Mr. Henry and Mr. Lausin, just in 1 minute each. What advice will you give to every African youth out there willing to become co-creators of sustainable development solution? Just in a minute as a closing thought. Yeah. Mr. Henry, please would like to take it first.
Okay. First and foremost, in addition to what Madam Ngozi said concerning the question you asked about how the government development partners can ensure that solutions work beyond policy, I think you gave the answer initially, but let me draw your attention to it because I wanted to speak on it before. Collaboration. One reason why we are here, we are all sounding, oh, this is insightful, this is because we have the opportunity to be here. If I'm not here, wherever I am, I cannot be shouting, this is high-depth, insightful. No. So once you collaborate, you definitely find a way to implement. Now, my closing thought will be about what we can do beyond this summit. let's start with ourselves. We have started talking in policy implementation and all that. Yes, all of us individually, we are doing great works, or individual organizations, we are doing great work, but we have to collaborate more so that we'll find out gaps that we can fill, so that we'll find out ways in which we can expand and explore other strengths and see how we can move on. So once we start that collaboration, I'm sure young people as well that are into our various networks can see the opportunity to collaborate. So my advice to every young person out there, find a way to participate. In fact, somebody called me 2 days ago and said she was resigning. She wants to go into volunteering. I said, why? She said she was reading the SDG goals and there are some things that are just sparking her interest. I said, they will not pay you.
Wow.
She said, no, she wants to experiment. I said, are you sure it's part of your long-term vision? She said yes, that she just feels that she wants to do more, that with her job, it's just 8 to 6. And then she's feeling that there's a lot of things to be done. So a lot of young people that are feeling that way, if you're feeling that way, find somebody, go on AI, go on ChatGPT. I think that place now you want to get everything there. Go, we are old school, like research. Go on ChatGPT, ask, this is my interest. Who do I collaborate with? Which organization can I contact? It will show you a list. You start there. You have to participate before you can become part of the solution. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Henry. Thank you for this profound knowledge which you've shared. And it's been a great time with you. I would just like to take Lawson first, please. We'd love to have your closing thought as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I'll just build on what Mr. Henry has said. The truth is that for me, I work in nonprofit full time, and this is getting to over 10 years now that I've actually dedicated my life to nonprofit, particularly as regards education and digital inclusion. And what I like to tell people, particularly young people, is that what do you think you want to spend the rest of your life doing? Once you can answer that question, then the path is drawn for you. One thing I've realized over the years is that people are fast to become founders and CEOs without necessarily having an understanding or an in-depth understanding of what they actually want to do. And while there is the whole notion of you can learn on the job and all that, it is very, very important for you to have like concrete understanding, even down to theoretical foundation of the things you want to actually achieve. That way to guide you. Because the truth is, it's not easy running non-profit in Nigeria. And particularly in Nigeria, there are almost 200,000 non-profit that are registered in Nigeria. Different persons doing different things, everybody answering founder. But that is not only the case. The point is that we should be able to really fix in solutions. I wrote an article sometime 2 years ago, and from research, I realized that more than $60 billion have been pumped into the Nigerian economy from 1960 to date as aid. Yet, we still require aid. It's an alarming problem. And while there are different reasons to that, I believe that young people, we can strategically begin to find solutions to the problem in our environment, even without necessarily looking for far-reaching places. From where we are, what kind of solution can I profile here? And once you've solved that, and different persons in their own locality solve their own, you see that the gap between action or problem and solution will begin to close in. And that way, you're going to be moving forward as a nation. So I think it's important, really. Let's start from your space, and then we can begin to scale further. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lawson. Start from your current location. In my book, The Changemaker's Code, I said start from your household, even before you get to your street, before you get to your community, before you get to your local government, before you get to your state, before you get to your country, or before you say you are doing it across Africa, or before you say you are doing it globally. That impact, that solution you want to bet, let it start from within your respective immediate household. This has been a very mind-blowing session. I think it deserves that we applaud our team guest speakers. I want to see our comments. I want to see our emojis in the chat. Please, let's do that. Let's do that. Let's love on them. Thank you so much, Mr. Henry. Thank you so much, Mr. Lawson. Thank you very much, Mana Ngozi. I know you took it's quite a lot of commitment for you to be here this afternoon. And I want to believe that it's been a great time for each and every one of us. It doesn't end here. Feel free to connect with these amazing speakers. I know definitely they are open to engaging further with you. And you can also connect with me. I remain Emmanuel Olaoluyo, the HSTG Catalyst. At this point, I have to get to hand over back to our host for today, Mr. Oluwafemi Abioye, as we continue and wrap up today's session.
Oh, wow. It's been a very, very powerful engagement, insightful discussion, action-enabled thoughts, and a whole lot to the entire delegate, even to I that I'm speaking. Thank you so much for everything you've shared. Notes are filled up, and likewise, the brain and the mind are ready. So we will be going to the next on the line now as we are preparing to round up the summit. We'll be having our last plenary section, which is focused on EdTech, AI, and digital skill, reimagining teaching and learning in Africa. Of course, we have been talking about technology and digital skills ever since the beginning of this summit. So we'll be looking at these again in the educational sector. And we are happy to have the person of Mr. Bolu Michael B to be speaking to us on these as I quickly run through his profile. Bolu Michael B is an international development professional, AI literacy consultancy, and global thought leader at the intersection of technology policy and social transformation. He currently serves as a knowledge management advisor at Canadian Crossroad International in Eswatini. He is the founder and executive director of Code 24 AI, an educational and capacity building organization advancing responsible and practical use of artificial intelligence to solve problems. It is an honor to have you, Mr. Bolu Michael B, founder of Code 24 AI, this afternoon to have us speak on EdTech, AI, and digital skills, reimagining teaching and learning in Africa. Mr. Bolu, good afternoon to you.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Can I confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. So I want to say a very good afternoon to everybody. My name is Bolu Michael B. I'm Nigerian, and I'm based in the Kingdom of Eswatini, formerly known as Swaziland in Southern Africa, smallest country in Africa. Such an amazing place, and yeah, Nigerians are everywhere, they say. We're going to be having fun this afternoon. We'll be talking about a very interesting topic, which is EdTech, AI, and digital skills, reimagining teaching and learning in Africa. So I usually like to start with a story, and I've worked, I can do without the slide. Let me just speak so that it won't distract. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Um, yeah, I usually like to start with a story, because that's how to, make people really understand issues. When we proceed to speak, the story will make sense at some point in time. I worked with the African Union for 2.5 years. And it's one of Kenya. I was in Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya, one of the nicest cities. I love Kenya so much. In fact, they gave me a name called Juma. There, Kenya is my second home. I met this person called Grace. Grace is a secondary school teacher in the rural part of in the rural community in Kenya, and this happened in 2019. And an NGO came to her school with tablets, this iPad and all that, loaded with interactive lessons. They trained her for about 2 days. They took photos and all the glamorous stuff. They wrote their reports. The education minister, visited for the launch. And then 6 months later, I had the opportunity to visit that same school again for to follow up and stuff like that. And to my surprise, these tablets were locked in the principal's office in the cupboard, gathering dust. Half of the tablets had dead batteries. The Wi-Fi router that we got was never installed because the school couldn't afford, monthly subscription at the time. And what about this Grace, the teacher? She went back to usual chalk on the board or marker on the board and talking. Not because she didn't want to have a change. It's not because she didn't have the capacity to change, but because the solutions provided was not designed for that reality. The solution, the tabs was not provided, was not meeting, was not designed for the reality of the environment. It's a rural community, not much access to, internet and all that. So it was a solution for another clime, not that particular environment. And that's the story of EdTech in Africa today. And in that cupboard was thousands of dollars, just gathering dust there. And great salary, maybe average $200 a month, which is not even bad at the time, but it's just quite unfortunate that this is the story of EdTech in Africa. We make expensive promises, we dish out disappointing results, and teachers are left just holding the bag. So I'm here to tell everyone this afternoon or morning or evening, depending on wherever you are, I'm not here to sell any hope. I'm here to tell us the uncomfortable truths. And I've outlined 3 uncomfortable truths, which is the first being that EdTech has overpromised and underdelivered in Africa. The second is that the problem is not that we lack the tools. The problem is the misalignment with reality, like in the case of Grace. Find the solution, the tablets could have been solution in another clime, but not for the reality of Grace's environment. And if we don't change how we think about education and technology in Africa, AI will make our problems worse, not better. At the same time, I'm here to show us the way forward because the future is not entirely bleak. The future does not look like the tablets in the cupboard gathering dust. It's actually brighter, if we do the right things. But let's go to the basics. What has failed in Africa? Let's start with the evidence. According to the World Bank, about 70% of EdTech pilot projects in sub-Saharan Africa, they fail to scale beyond the initial phase. Whopping 70%. That's not a failure rate. That's an actual business model failing. And we spent decades in Africa obsessed with what I'll call the big 3 gaps. And the gaps, they include the access gap, the capability gap, and the incentive gap. And I'm going to take each of them so that we have a proper understanding. Let's tackle the access gap, the access as the word implies. Only 28% of African schools have electricity, according to UNESCO's report in 2023. That's lack of access. The average cost of 1 gigabyte of data in Africa is about $2, while in Europe is about 26 cents. 26 cents or thereabout. Europe is richer than Africa, but Africa is paying more for data. Lack of access. Now, student to device ratio in most African schools is about 150 to 1. That's ridiculous. And these are real problems, and these are real issues that nobody wants to admit. Nobody wants to admit that we've been solving the access gap in Africa with solutions designed for places where it doesn't even exist. We keep importing tablets made in the US for US classrooms into villages where probably the nearest power socket is like 5 kilometers away. We are launching learning apps that require 4G connectivity in countries where most people, they've never even experienced stable 3G. That's what we are doing in Africa. It's like giving someone a Ferrari in a village that with no roads. Of what use is this going to be? It's just going to be parked there. And what happens to a parked car that is not being used? Even if you don't use it, it's just going to deteriorate over time. The next time you open, you just see one lizard or snake in the bonnet also. That's what happens. It just deteriorates. You want it to start it, you move on. The fact that it's even Ferrari. So you can bring the fanciest of gadgets into Africa. If it does not meet the local context, it's just a waste of money. Now, let's go to the capability gap. This is the one that people don't really want to talk about. The access gap is not even the big problem in Africa, it's the capability gap. A 2002 study by the African Union found that only 19% of teachers in Africa have received any training on digital pedagogy. What I mean by pedagogy is the training, or getting training to know how to train. In Nigeria, we go to the NC, I think National College of Education, that bring up, the churn out teachers. They train them there to know how to teach. So you need to teach people to learn to know how to teach digital skills. Now, that report is saying that only 19% of teachers in Africa have had the training on how to teach digital skills, not advanced AI tools, just the basic digital skills. And now let's go to the students that we are teaching. We've trained our students to be consumers, not creators. They can scroll on TikTok for hours, but if you ask them to create something on a spreadsheet or just write a professional email or just fact check a viral post, they won't be able to do that. People now detest ChatGPT and all that for study because why? I want an Africa whereby the same way we tell people students to open their dictionaries and check for the right word, we can ask students to open their ChatGPT and do some research right there in class. Oh, students, open your ChatGPT, check for this. That is what it should be. Not, I don't want to see you people using ChatGPT, this and this. No. We can turn it around for our good, either as a teacher, as a student. But we are here in Africa treating AI like magic. Like ChatGPT will solve everything, will solve every problem, but not forgetting the fact that even ChatGPT even hallucinates. And that's where the human factor comes in. By hallucination, that it brings out reports or answers that may not be entirely true. It happens. And if the human is not knowledgeable, it won't be able to detect that this is wrong information. Not if students don't know how to ask the right questions. The teachers as well, they do not understand how to prompt engineer or do a critical evaluation, then we have a problem. And that's what takes us to the incentive gap, the one nobody wants to fix. We've talked about the one nobody wants to talk about. Now we're talking about the one that nobody wants to fix, the incentive gap. The incentive gap is what breaks my heart the most because teachers are not rewarded for innovation. And when there's no reward for innovation, there's nothing motivating you to actually learn. I know brilliant educators who spend their own money on the internet bundles just to improve their lessons. I mean, that's what happens most time. I mean, in sub-Saharan Africa, in Nigeria. And their principals don't even notice the sacrifice these teachers make to deliver good education in those schools. Today, schools are evaluated based on the enrollment numbers, not the skills outcome. They say, oh, because 5,000 students are in this school, then it must be a good school because everybody is going there. Oh, because this university has state-of-the-art facilities, then we're going to accredit this university. Why not ask the question, how many superstars has that facility produced? That is what should determine the accreditation, not infrastructure. Have anybody ever heard a Nigerian school that lost its accreditation because the students graduated without digital literacy? No, you never hear of that anywhere in Africa. And what about the government? They fund the infrastructure, they put concrete in place, but they don't reward competence. You build the school, you cut the tape, but what about the teachers teaching in those buildings? Do they matter? They just get there, they just cut the ribbon for the hospital. What about the quality of the doctors or the nurses or the midwives getting in there? What's the use of an hospital if you bring a pregnant woman in there and because of lack of competence, she loses the child or she loses her life as well? They could have just stayed at home and do whatever, use whatever remedy. The hospital and the schools, they have no relevance if the people working there are not competent. Politicians call the ribbons of computer labs, and then they don't follow up after 6 months. And then you see that they just like they tap the computers as well, they're gathering dust. We are counting the devices, but we are not measuring the learning outcome. And according to a 2023 report, Nigeria trained about 500,000 teachers in digital skills in 1 year. I mean, on the face of it, that sounds impressive, but the reality is that this training that we are talking about was just 3 hours, 3 hours seminar. No follow-up, no mentorship, no assessment of whether those teachers actually changed their practice. That's not capacity building. We're doing it all wrong. That's just a photo opportunity. That's a photo op. And then we mistake what digital skill really is. What are digital skills? So let's talk about what we should be building instead. Because the truth is that digital skills are not tools. It's not about knowing what Microsoft Word can do. It's about you knowing how to use Microsoft Word. That is the way we should think. But when we say digital skills, most people think, oh, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, or maybe coding. We are all wrong. Digital skill is breaking the ability to break down complex challenges into smaller solvable parts. The real digital skill is knowing when information is credible, biased, or AI generated. And don't forget, I mentioned the human factor because AI can hallucinate. But if the teacher or the student, they don't have the skill, they will not be able to say that, oh, this answer is wrong. Data skill is seeing connections across data, across systems, across ideas. Those are the real data skills. Data skill is prompting, refining, validating, not copying and pasting things. Digital skill is ability to write those emails. You know Microsoft Word, but you may not be able to write email. Digital skill is writing those emails, collaborating remotely, and presenting ideas the best way possible. These are the skills that matter, whether you're a farmer using a weather app or a nurse or whatever, whether you're an entrepreneur, whatever you are, these are the skills that matter. Because most African students, they don't need to be software engineers, but they need to become digital literates. They need to become digitally fluent workers, citizens, and creators. In the 1960s, they didn't teach everyone to become mechanics. But what they did was that they taught everyone, as many people, how to drive. Data fluency is the same. It's not about building the car. It's about knowing how to navigate the road. You don't have to own a car to know how to drive. There are driving schools here and there. And that is what the schools, that's what they are meant for. You don't have to have a computer to get the skill to use them. The basic that we were able to work with in the 1990s and the early 2000s, not necessarily that we have laptops or a desktop, but we had computer labs that actually helped us to pull through. And that's the foundation of a person like me here, standing as an AI literacy consultant. Now, AI can expose our weaknesses. If we are not ready, AI will expose every weakness in our educational system, because if teachers can't explain concepts clearly and students just use ChatGPT for whatever, then there's a problem. If examination test is all about learning by rote, cramming, students will just copy and paste answers. That's what's happening today in our classrooms. So they just learn or just cram for WAEC and that's it. If our curriculum is outdated, AI will offer better and faster alternatives. So AI is possible to AI can widen the inequality in our educational system. If only wealthy students are the ones that have the guidance on how to use AI. If we didn't have computer labs back then in the late 1990s and early 2000s, and only the wealthy ones who have a computer room in their houses, you could see that there's a major gap in inequality. So the role of the school is to close that gap, that inequality gap between the rich and the poor when it comes to digital literacy. That's the role of the school. Students in Nairobi private school are already learning prompt engineering. Meanwhile, students in rural parts of Nigeria, they don't even know that there's something called AI. And that's the story of many parts of Africa and African countries today. But at the same time, AI can be the equalizer. AI can reduce the cost of personalized tutoring. Or there are platforms whereby you can learn for free. It wasn't what entailed in those days, but because of AI, you can actually get on ChatGPT and learn. AI can improve the instant feedback because our teachers, sometimes they get overworked. AI can improve our curriculum adaptation. We can adjust our lessons to the pace of each student. Now, imagine a classroom where every child has a tutor that never gets tired, that never judges them, that doesn't, even cost them anything to be in school. That is AI. AI doesn't get tired. It's not going to judge you. You don't need to pay anything much to have it give you a proper answer the whole day. And that's the promise, and that's the benefit of AI. But we only benefit from it fully if we design it with intentionality. And people are afraid that AI will take their jobs, it will replace teachers. It's not going to replace any teacher anywhere. AI will only replace teachers that refuse to upgrade. Imagine you're coming with the knowledge of some curriculum of 1970 something. Does it apply to the world today? The world is advancing, and you as a teacher, you must advance with the world, and that's what we call professional development. It's the teachers that refuse to adapt, that refuse to level up. Those are the ones that AI is going to replace. And now let's go to the solution. What must change? What's the future looking like? I'm going to give you examples that work, not in the context of the US or Europe or whatever, in the African context. We are already seeing changes in Africa. It's just for us to build on it. For example, in Rwanda, there's something called Ubumenyi. I worked in Rwanda for a year. Amazing country as well. They use AI to help teachers to generate lessons plans that are aligned to the national curriculum. So the teachers basically they input that topic into it, the class size and available materials. Then AI suggests the activities, the questions, and the assessments. And the teachers reported that they saved about 5 hours per week on planning. 5 hours they actually spent on doing the real job of teaching. That's what's going on in Africa as well. It's not all doom. We also have some glooms. We only need to build on this thing. Another example in Tanzania. There's an app called Shule Direct that delivers video lessons, quizzes, and assignments entirely offline. So what the students basically do is that they download the content whenever they have Wi-Fi. Maybe they go to town or the school or the cafe. Then they learn at home without data. No internet, no problem. In South Africa, there's a platform called ALX. I know many of us probably have benefited from this ALX platform. They offer 3 to 6 months micro credential in data marketing, data analysis, and all that. So students basically learn practical skills and build their portfolios so that they can get hired or probably get a remote job without spending 4 years on a degree. Because employers these days, they don't care about your certificate. We seem to like certificate a lot in this part of the world. I don't know why. What employers actually care about is, can you do the job? They care about what you can do. You may have all the degree in the world. If you can't show workings, forget about it. Forget about it. They rather get a person with a bachelor's degree with 10 years experience or even less, 2 years, 5 years experience than somebody with a PhD with 1 year experience or no experience at all. So let's focus on building the practical skills. Let's not dwell too much on the theory and focus more on the practice. And that's why I like the policy of the government in Nigeria recently by cutting away the dichotomy between university degrees and the HND. The polytechnics, they're focused on practice. The university, they're focused on theory. But what sells out there is not your theory, it's the practice. Now they are being put at the same level, which should be the case. I don't know why it took so long to get it to that point, but it doesn't matter anymore. It's done and it's done. I'm very happy about that. In Nigeria, there are organizations like Technology Hubs that run weekend boot camps in secondary schools and community centers. So the students basically just learn coding, content creation, freelancing, and all that. So these things are going on in Africa. We just need to, improve on them. We just need to improve on them. So we need to stop measuring the wrong things. We need to stop measuring the enrollment numbers and say, oh, we enrolled 10,000 students. That's not success. What can the 10,000 students do? Or what use if they can't do anything? Oh, we donated and distributed 5,000 tablets. Okay, you distributed it. Can they use it? Okay, you've trained 50,000 teachers in 2 days. Okay, now what? Those things are not, should no longer be the metrics of measuring success in Africa. What what we should measure instead is the skills demonstrated. Can the students we teach, can they build a budget in Excel? Can they write professional email? Can they detect misinformation? What we should measure is the problem solved. Did the students use digital tools to solve real world problems? What we should measure is the employability outcome. How many graduates are getting the jobs? How many graduates are starting businesses? Those are the real things that we should measure as success. The teacher capability growth as well. Are teachers improving their practice over time? These 4 things are the real measure of success. There are many people with degrees out there, some 3, 4 degrees. Yeah, people have up to 4 degrees, 2 bachelors, 2 masters. I know them. Many of them they're not even doing what they are studying right now. Okay, they're not doing what they're studying right now. I know a person that's studying management information system. Now she runs a successful carpentry business. I know somebody that also has a master's in communication and language arts from University of Ibadan. Now she's a musician. Another one, studied computer engineering. Now she's into content creation. And you know what? These people that are actually using these skills, content creation, they have unlimited income that no 9 to 5 can pay. But it's the skill that sells. And the more you learn, the more you earn. The same salary scale that they'll pay a bachelor's degree holder is different from the one they'll pay a PhD holder, because the skills, the one has learned more, so they must earn more. That's how the world works. It's not about just learning, but actually doing the job. And here's the good news as a round-off. Africa does not need to replicate Western education system. My mentor says it doesn't have to be right. It doesn't have to be white to be right. Bishop David Oyedepo, I went to Covenant University. I served there as the 4th student union president. So I'm very much into Bishop Oyedepo's teachings. He says all the time that it must not be white to be right. It's not everything Oyinbo that is right. We don't need to follow 150-year-old models of factory schooling, standardized testing, and age-based grades. We need to build things in our own context, in the African context. We need to build for Africa, develop for Africa, not copying and pasting. And just the way we leapfrogged from using landlines and going to post office to make calls, and going straight into using GSM phones, we can do the same with our technology and AI as well. The same way we leapfrogged from traditional banking and going to the banking halls, and now we use M-Pesa in Kenya, we can do the same with our education system as well. What's stopping us? We don't have to copy homework from countries that don't share our local context. So what must change for us to make things work? It starts with the government. Government must stop funding infrastructure without investing in competence. Stop building those schools and ignoring the teachers. They need to create incentive system that reward innovation. They must pay the bonuses, and not just paying bonuses, you pay on time. We must shift our assessment from memorizing things to actual application, as some of the previous speakers said. What needs to change again? The schools need to change. We need to reform our curriculum across board. Less theory, more practice. I know we've said this before, and it's very important. We need to change how we assess our students. Let's test what they can do, not what they can repeat. It's very easy to cram and pour, but yeah, I mean, that was how education was, and it's still right now in Africa. I can still remember some definitions in Intro Tech of over 20 years ago. Cyclotron is the machine in which high-speed neutron and proton propel atom to release nuclear energy. Am I using it now? I counted then to pass because that's what the education system or the schooling system at the time forced us to do. This does not have to be the story of every African child. The teachers as well need to change. I know it's very hard, but we need to upgrade their skills. They need to learn to use AI as a teaching assistant and not seeing it as a tool there or built to take over their job. The students must change as well. We are cramped. We need to change. We need to take agency, as the previous speaker said. Let's not wait for the system to change. We need to be curious. We need to experiment with free online tools. How did I become an AI literacy consultant? I watched a YouTube video a couple of years ago, and it felt like magic to me just looking at how this person was using AI tools to solve problems. So I did the same thing, I replicated, and I started, learning these tools on my own. I got really fascinated. And then I got to work. I started using those tools to get things done. My colleagues noticed that I was getting things done better, faster, better. I was even rewarded as the staff of the month a couple of times. And they called me to teach them, and I taught them as well to boost their efficiency. And then we went for a conference with my executive director at the time. And then he was like, well, there's this speaking opportunity that just came up. Can I represent the organization at the conference? And then I did my thing. I spoke, and it was a high-level panel. Other executive directors and representatives from different organizations walked up to me and said, "Oh, great presentation. Can you teach our people?" And that's how I started. Almost every presentation got me the next invite. And that's how I became literacy consultant. But that's not the thing. It started from me being curious. It started from me experimenting the free online tools. It started from me sitting down and doing the work. It started from me just being curious. And now I make an income and all out of it. Curiosity. So our students must be equally curious. And then the tech builders must change as well. Stop designing for California. Stop designing for Texas instruments. Start selling and designing for Lagos. Design things in the African context. Offline first, mobile first, low data, low cost. Those are the keywords of consideration you should have when building. The partners as well with teachers, not just ministry. The funders must change as well. And this is my final thought. The cupboard of tablets in Gracie School that I talked about at the beginning, probably not there right now because years have passed. It's been 7 years or thereabout. They might still be locked away. I don't know. They might be given out the unused. But what about Grace herself? Now she has learned how to record short teaching videos on her phone. Her students' pass rates have improved. She didn't wait for the system. She changed herself. And that's the future of education in Africa. Not top down, not imported, not expensive. And that's why I founded Code 24 AI to produce more people like Grace who will take the bull by the horn and be curious. That's why we provide free education and tools and resources for anyone who cares to level up. And we don't just provide these tools for free, we teach you how to use them. So it's bottom up, it's homegrown, it's adaptive. We don't need perfection, we need progress. We don't need more devices being donated, we need more capability. We don't need more promises by government and donors and NGOs, we need more action. The tools are ready, the resources are there. The question I want you all to ask yourself is, are you ready? Thank you very much.
Are you ready? Wow. The closing question is what everybody should go and sit down with and begin to really think about that. You have attended ASSD 2026, you've attended AGES 2026, you've attended a series of plenary section, panel discussion, a lot of goodwill messages, keynote speeches, opening remarks. Now the question is, with all the volume of knowledge that have been shared, capped with the one Mr. Bola has just shared, the question he has put forward applies to everyone. Are you ready to make use of all this information, to transform all this information into actionable and we better resort that we make our continent a better place, such that we begin to have people in the Western world that are coming down to say that, yes, Africa is the home where I want to dwell now. Africa is the home where I want to reside now, not having African people moving out of African nation. On this note, I want to say a very big thank you to Mr. Bolu for giving us this powerful charge. Is beyond just an ordinary comment, it's beyond just an ordinary speech, but it is a powerful charge. Action must follow this up. And I want to sincerely encourage the entire delegate that this is time for us to rise. This is time for us to begin to act. We've done a lot of speeching, we've done a lot of words, we've done a lot of things, but the only thing left for us to do now is action, action, action. You don't have to start in a big way. You don't have to start in that your fascinating dream way, but you can start as little as influencing your household, from your household down to your family, from your family to your street, from your street to the town, from the town to the neighboring town, now to the local government, to the state, to your country. And before you know what's going on, you are impacting the entire continent and the globe at large. On this note, we want to say a very beautiful thank you to all our keynote speakers for today, all our plenary section speakers today, all our panel discussant. We sincerely appreciate you, our partnering organizations. We thank you for making this event a powerful one. And yes, the entire delegate, if you do not attend, if you don't sign up for this program, of course, this program cannot hold. We sincerely appreciate you all for making this event a wonderful one. And we believe that from now on, we will begin to see the outcome of all we have discussed here for the past 3 days. It's been an amazing section. So as we round up now, I would like to quickly take us through some announcement. And that will be all for today. Within the next 2 to 3 minutes, we should be done with the announcement. So I would like to start with the programs we run at ADEF. Don't let us forget that the organization that has brought this summit forward to everyone is the ADEF Africa. The full pronunciation is the African Initiative for Innovation and Development. You are welcome, and we sincerely appreciate your participation. So we have some couple of programs that we would like to quickly run through. We have Teach for SDG Africa. This is a program that is majorly for the K-12 educators. And this program has done an amazing work by equipping educators, not just with head knowledge, but to take practical actions. We have the African Mentorship Program. This is a 9-month program whereby we mentor youth and fellows to ensure that their dreams in the development space is actualized. We have the Recycle Hub program. This is a community circular economy program that speaks to proper waste management and innovation. It's a 6-month program. Likewise, we have the Sustainable Energy Accelerator program. This is a program that focuses majorly on the energy sector. So if you are an energy enthusiast, this is a program for you to look out for. Yes, we know that as we have life on land, we also have life below the waters. And we have programs for those that are interested in taking care of our water bodies. That's the African Blue Economy Fellowship. This is a program that talks about life below water. Likewise, we have Genus B Innovation Program. We have Green School Activation Program, School Health Initiative, Eco 30. Yes, let me quickly speak to these. We have Eco 30. This is a 30-day challenge that we go on sustainable practices for good 30 days, and we continue to replicate these practices for the rest of our lives. SDG Spotlight is another program. We have other programs like the Campus Ambassadors Program. This program is majorly for tertiary institutions, students, and you shall be getting a lot of updates about how to sign up for any of these programs via the respective WhatsApp group that has been created, that you have been onboarded. Likewise, for those that have been requesting about certificate and the likes, don't worry, we'll definitely reach out to you via email and on the WhatsApp group, and we will communicate to you on the modalities behind that. Once again, we want to say a very big thank you to you. As we round up on the summit, don't forget that we still have the final engagement, which is the side event engagement. We have 4 sections today, starting by 2 p.m. till 5 p.m. We shall be dropping update also on the WhatsApp group. So just be on the lookout as we shall be sharing all these important details. On this note, we want to once again thank all our speakers from day one till now, all the organizations that has collaborated with us, partnered with us to bring this summit to reality, all our delegates that has attended, likewise the project team, the executive team, the leadership of HEDF Africa, everyone that has contributed in one way or the other to make this summit a success. We want to say a very big thank you to you, and we believe that by the time we'll be converging next year for this summit, it's going to be in a better way, it's going to be in a brighter way, and we are going to be having a lot of innovative showcase that this summit has really bettered. Thank you, and we say do enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on wherever you are joining us for. My name is Abiy Oluwafemi, the director of the Innovation Hub in HEDF Africa. Bye for now.
When you are named the Faithkeeper of the Onondaga Council of Chiefs, and for me, it was 51 years ago, you are told that we are now placing in your hands all life, and it is your responsibility to look after all life. Every person, every tree, every animal, every stream, and the earth itself, unto the 7th generation. In 1972, the world started a process that is mapping our future. The United Nations Conference on the Human Environment held in Stockholm brought the industrialized and developing nations together to delineate the rights of people to a healthy and productive environment.
The environmental crisis will profoundly alter our planet.
Fossil fuels is slowly warming the globe.
Our report is founded upon the concept of sustainable development.
We all have 2 hands and the sentiment of the world.
Now I wonder if they will even exist.
We are plundering our children's heritage for our present unsustainable practices.
Notre maison brûle.
The key is to come out from Johannesburg with a credible commitment to action.
Now is your moment
to save ourselves and the planet for our children.
We can fix this. We can stop this madness.
Accelerated climate change is here right now.
I will link arms with those marching for climate action.
We, baby, are going to fight. Mommy, Daddy, your president too. We will all fight.
We are experiencing a process that is linking our nations and communities much more closely together than they have ever been before. Our lives are intertwined via the food we eat, the music we listen to, the information we get, and the ideas we hold. Last year, the world's leaders unanimously committed to eliminate extreme poverty, address climate change, and build more resilient societies. In the Agenda 2030, we have a blueprint for sustainable development. Now the real work and the real opportunities begin.
We have a very
But potential offered by these new Sustainable Development Goals and a binding treaty on climate change is immense.
It is a new chapter of hope for the world.
It is we, the peoples, who are embarking today on a journey towards a more sustainable and equitable future. Our journey will involve governments, the United Nations system and other international institutions, local authorities, indigenous peoples, civil society, business and the private sector, the scientific and the academic community, and all people.
Because we deserve to do more than just survive. We deserve to thrive.
This interconnectedness among humans on the planet is creating a global village, where the barriers of national and international boundaries become less relevant and the world a smaller place. The road ahead may be fraught with difficulties, challenges, and struggles, but we must dare each other to be visionary, to be ambitious, to be leaders. Given the opportunity, we can raise ourselves. We must join hands with the rest of creation and speak of common sense, responsibility, solidarity, and peace. We have all the tools. We are standing in front of an opportunity to change the course of life on the planet. Let's work together to make this world better, where everybody can live with dignity and abundance. Our future starts now. To leave no one behind, we must all lead.